I told the psychiatrist that I'm hearing voices. A fraud took advantage of my mother. She had her kid kidnapped and held for ransom. Holy I don't know why that's funny, but at some point I snapped, man. I was involved in some kind of heinous crime that they will never be able to prove. Every authority figure has failed me. This world will grab a hold of you, kidnap you in the middle of the night, and do whatever it wants to you. My dad's major thing when I was growing up was you got to take your brother with you everywhere you go. Like, you guys can't leave the house together. Because in the 90s, I don't know if you remember this, there was this mysterious man in the van who was going around, and I guess if he caught you, you'd come back just gerbil-eyed, staring at the wall forever, you know. Me and my brother, my twin brother, actually, we're like Ren and Stimpy, okay? Right. Like, he's a big guy, and he's very soft and sweet, and I'm wiry, and I'm like a mean chihuahua. Or when I was a kid, at least. I've mellowed out. Maybe my testosterone's lower now, but he's fat and I'm mean. Those are not kids that you want to kidnap. And so my dad was pretty smart in saying, stay together. Because him on his own, maybe, you know, and then me just being small by myself, probably be easy to grab. But the two of us, no.
He's got a pretty mouth.
But here's the thing is, like, every time we moved, because back in the 90s, it was okay to, like, be mean to people if they were fat. Or any kind of different, or wear glasses. I wear glasses.
I miss the old days.
So every time we would move, my brother's getting picked on for being fat, and I'm getting picked on for wearing glasses. So I became the enforcer, where it's like I'm fighting all the time. Like, and I start to resent my brother because every time we move a lot, and I'm expected to go out and make us friends to hang out with, right? And then we would either lose those friends because he's kind of an awkward introvert. And they're like, what's up with him? Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Or then he started doing things where, like, I'd go out and make us a friend to skate with or whatever, ride bikes with. And then he would, like, kind of get close with him and try to exclude me. He always thought that he had self-esteem issues. He didn't feel like he could make friends on his own because of his weight problem or whatever,
right.
You know? And he wasn't even that fat. He was just a husky boy, you know? And so I bring that up because it kind of sets me off on a path at a young age of, like, not taking no shit from nobody, quick to get violent, you know, but also kind of being an outsider and, like, resenting. I feel like it was one of the first things where an authority figure failed me. So I started getting into trouble at a young age. Class clown. Dad didn't want me skating. He saw that as, like, didn't want me playing guitar and stuff. He saw that as, like, a one-way ticket to being a bum. Like,
I feel like your dad was on point, though.
He was, but he also was a very sadistic punisher. It was okay to beat your kids then. I just talked to him yesterday, and I was like, you know, with all these new things with, like, parenting and stuff, like, if you were my age and you had a kid now in this day and age, would you still beat the shit out of your kids? And he's like, yeah. No, I don't feel that way. I don't think I needed to be. Here, let me give you an example, like the extremes my dad would go to. I wasn't really allowed to have a lot of friends. Like, we never had people over at the house. And on my 11th birthday, me and my brother got to have a friend over, and the dog took a shit on the carpet in the living room. And my dad grabbed me by my neck and held my face up to the dog shit and hit me like you do a dog. That's the kind of shit he would do. Extreme punishments. Like, my dad would never come home and just beat us, but if we fucked up, you were going to get fucked up. It was going to be like, one time I bucked up to him. He was beating up on my brother. I bucked up to him, and he, like, you want to step up to the champ? You want to step up to your old man? You're going out of this house the same way you came in. And he stripped me butt naked and put me out on the front porch like Dino from the Flintstones. Right. Like, that's the kind of shit that I was doing. He
sounds like a douchebag, but it's a little too extreme. But
really extreme, yeah. So anyway.
But I can see spanking kids.
Yeah, it was more than spanking.
Yeah, I can't see abuse.
And I get it, too. Like, sometimes they need that negative reinforcement. Sometimes a physical one is the only thing that will work. Their frontal lobe is not developed yet, you know. Like, they got some... And I have to learn lessons the hard way, you know. So anyway, one day, me and my buddies are out. I discovered the PSTA, the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority.
Okay.
It was $2.50 for a all-day pass. So I could go anywhere in Pinellas County from Williams Park to downtown Clearwater and go skateboard for $2.50. So this was like my Sunday routine. Me and my brother would go skate around Pinellas County everywhere. But my parents' rule was, don't go to Clearwater Beach. We're running late to get home. We got a curfew, right? And so we're trying to make it down to the other end of the beach by the Sankey Bridge to get the bus to go home. And so we're riding our skateboards, holding onto a car. It's called skitching. And my brother and our friend Bird, that's his nickname, they're on the back of the car holding onto the wheel wells. That's where you're supposed to do it. It's the safest place, but there's no room for me. So I'm on the side of the car holding onto the door handle. Well, we go to a red light. This guy, the old man, doesn't see us this whole time. We're riding down Clearwater Beach. The old man doesn't see us. We stop at a red light. He starts to go again. I pull on the door handle because I'm starting to fall back off my skateboard, and the door opens up. And I look in the door in the car, and the old man looks back at me with like the most terrified look on his face. And he pulls over and gets out of his car, and he's so kerfuffled he can't get his key into the trunk of his car, but who knows what he's going for. I think he thinks that we were trying to carjack him or something.
Right.
And he's probably going for a gun. So, but we get away from him, and we're like the warriors now at this point. We got to get home. We're going to be in trouble. We weren't supposed to be on Clearwater Beach. So if we're past curfew, we're going to have to call Pops and have him come pick us up, and we're not where we're supposed to be.
Right.
So we go to this, we're skating down Sand Key, and we see one of those like call boxes for a condo building, and I think it's a payphone. 13 years old, I don't know any different, you know? So I pick up the phone, it's not a phone, I'm pissed. I think I like banged the phone on the receiver, on the whatever, and the security guard shows up, grabs me up, makes me and my buddy and my brother walk over to the security hut, and we ended up getting arrested because when the cops showed up for that, there had already been a call out for 3 skateboarders who carjacking, but they charged us with burglary, felony, 13 years old for accidentally opening a car door up.
Right.
Yeah. So that's my prior, right? So now I've got one charge, and
so what happened? You get probation?
I had to do like a diversionary program. Like
Right.
that was it. Write a letter of apology, do some kind of anger management class or something. They're easy on you on your first one. But if I was going to get another charge, which I did, I was going to do some time.
Right.
So a couple years, maybe a year goes by. My parents split up. We're living with my mom, and we're just like Lord of the Flies. Like we're doing whatever the we want. I'm every girl in the neighborhood. I'm getting into fights every day. Not going to school at all. Like pretty much dropped out in the 9th grade. And I had gotten into a fight, or I had a problem with a kid in our neighborhood, and I threw hot coffee on him because he'd already beat me up.
Right.
Like he's bigger than me. I couldn't do anything about it. I happened to be walking out of a gas station. Don't ask me why. I'm 14 years old and I'm already interested in coffee. But I had a hot cup of coffee, and I saw him, and I knew if I saw him, it was going to be on.
Right.
So I scolded him with coffee, and I caught another charge. So was that wrong? Should you not do that? What would you do if you were like?
No,
if was here and you had a hot cup of coffee and you wanted to fuck you?
Yeah. No.
So
I may probably already get. There's a better chance if I throw the coffee on him, I don't get my ass beat than I do. Yeah.
Right. So my mom is talking to a lady at the DJJ, like probation office, because as soon as you get arrested, you get assigned a probation officer. It kind of helps you go through the court system, even if you're not on probation. So she's talking to somebody at the office, and she's like, gives her a brochure, like, hey, there's this school. It's in Jamaica, and if you send your kid to it, it's a really strict like boot camp style school.
Right.
If you send your kid to it, they almost always drop the charges at the state's attorney's office.
Right.
So my mom's like, well, I think I'm going to do that.
Then that's where he's going.
Yeah. So what they do is to reduce the chance that you're going to run away. Like if you find out that you're going, they may be driving you down to the airport, and some of these kids might run out of the car and just run off, never come back, So they kidnap you.
Yeah, you have no idea when it's coming. And they feel like this was a documentary they did.
So
they talk about all these different places.
There's 3 out now.
They're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, there's one that's like a survival school. So it started, I'll give you a brief history. There was a drug program in Malibu in the 60s called Synanon. Okay, and they took a little bit of stuff from like Chinese internment camps, and then seriously, and literally
logs, Chinese internment camps,
and then rehab, and then AA, right? But
Sprinkles.
it's this like shaming the addict kind of thing, and then using the other addicts in there as like enforcers of the Synanon program, shave their head, take their identity away, cult, right?
Yeah,
therapy cult. And then there was another offshoot of that called The Seed, which was here in Florida. That was in the 70s, so like 60s, 70s. And then in the 80s, this Mormon guy from Utah saw the opportunity, like a business opportunity to do it, And he started those like survival camps where they take kids out in the desert of Utah, and that's just where you live. Like you got to you're camping for who knows how long. He gets some heat in the 80s and 90s for doing that, all the abuse and everything. And he realizes that he can go to different countries, and they have much more laxed child abuse laws.
Right.
And they're also separated from their family by so much that the parents aren't even going to figure out that their kids are being abused. So they opened up schools in like American Samoa. I don't know if this guy is related to the one that I was in. The company that owned the program I was in was called Worldwide Association of Specialty Programs. It was owned by a Mormon father and son from Utah called J.K. and Ken K. I don't remember which one's which, but the first guy, the documentary, if people want to do some research on this, it's called like Camp Nightmare. They break down like this dude who makes the business of it, right? And like famous people have been in these schools. Like Paris Hilton was in one in Utah. There's a comedian, Rachel Wolfson. She was in one. And then there's another documentary came out called The Program. That's on Netflix, and that one is specifically about a school, Ivy Ridge in upstate New York, that is a WASP affiliate.
Okay.
So there are schools in America, but then there's schools in American Samoa, Mexico, Costa Rica, and Jamaica. And those schools are the ones that, like, if you f up at South Carolina or Montana or Ivy Ridge, you get sent to that one. So I just went straight to that one. Like, I didn't get a chance to go to the nicer American boarding school. So, and then there's one more that's on HBO Max called Teen Torture Incorporated. And that's a better, like, overview. It's not just specifically about a WASP school, but it kind of breaks down that, like, this shit is still going on. You know, the business of troubled teens and warehousing children is still happening, right? And when I say warehousing, or I call it like a human trafficking scam, I think a lot of people associate human trafficking with like sex trafficking or whatever, but what this was just warehousing children. Because the program, like the therapy that we were going through was like, we listened to like Tony Robbins tapes and Wayne Dyer and Deepak Chopra and had to write essays about it. Like it was not, didn't see a psychiatrist not one time. You know, I had some psychosis from the trauma that I was experiencing in my neighborhood and in my home. I needed help. That's part of the reason why my mom sent me down there, to keep me out of the system and to get some help. But there was no help. There's just this like abusive kind of therapy cult. Like the guise of hidden behind the therapy is we're just keeping kids down here and basically charging a monthly ransom to the parent. Like it's like kidnapping. And now I took some good stuff out of it.
I was gonna say that's a little extreme.
It is extreme, but like I'm trying to be sympathetic. There are some people who I was a rough and tumble little fucker. Right. All right. Like to me, it's just another thing. And I ended up going into the system afterwards. I'll tell you that story. Like, but so you know, I have resolved the issues I had with that place because I know now there's way worse options. You know, like it wasn't that bad. When I went to boot camp in Pinellas County, I was wishing I could go back to Jamaica. I would have stole a boat and sailed back and locked myself back up in that prison to get the out. Right. Like, so, but the reason I also say that they're trying to keep you down there is like the merit system, there's the schoolwork, and then there's the program. You got to work the program. You got to earn merit points. You got to climb the levels. You got to go to these seminars, which are like, some people would call them brainwashing sessions. But again, there's good stuff in there. I think a lot of people call it brainwashing sessions because they talk about this in the documentary. You're almost expected to make your story sound more extreme to the seminar, like moderator or whatever, the person giving the seminar, because it's like, they'll ask you like, what are you in here for? And some kids are just in there for like being disobedient and smoking and skipping school. Right. And now they're in a Jamaican prison with kids who have like 26 felonies whose parents are sent them down there to keep them out of juvenile prison, you know? Right. But the way that the program was structured is like everything, this is kind of a funny one, but everything is when you get a violation and you gotta get some demerits, everything is made to sound like it's way worse than it is. So if they catch you jacking off, you know what they call it? A self-inflicted injury. Right. You're just beating your dick. You know what I mean? Right. And so your caseworker talks to your mom every week or every month or something like that.
He's self-mutilating himself, right? Yeah. Self-mutilation.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what they call it in prison. If you're tattooing, it's self-mutilation.
Yeah, but you're just getting your gang.
I'm getting a tattoo,
yeah,
bro.
Exactly.
I got a butterfly.
Or like you could leave like they don't want any wet clothing. It's tropics. There's no air conditioning. There's no climate control. They don't want any wet stuff in your dorm. There's like the kids are stacked in there like spoons. There might be 6, 8 kids in a little room with no AC. So if you get a wet sock in your cubby, that's a blatant rule violation, and you got to go to study hall. You got to not go to school for the day. You got to go to study hall, and you got to write a 5,000-word essay on why you left a wet sock in your dorm. And then the caseworker is going to go, well, another blatant rule violation. He just got 50 demerits. Better keep him down here, you know? And you earn your merit points by, they would play those tapes, like the Tony Robbins self-help style tapes, all those guys. Les Brown, I've heard them all. I've heard them all twice because they repeat after a while. They only had so many. And then at the end of the night, you got to write a reflection on what you earned on it. And then the caseworker grades your reflection and gives you merit points based on that. But it's stacked in a way where you can never earn enough merit points versus the amount that you're going to lose. And guards were given quotas to give kids consequences for talking without permission. These motherfuckers would watch you so closely. They talk about that in the documentary of how on top of you, like eagle eye they were, that if you were in line and you looked at a line, maybe you look over here is like the Caribbean Sea and there's a nice sunset and you go like this and look at it, that's run plans. You're planning to run away because you looked at the ocean.
Right.
And then so the jail within the jail, they don't have like a hole or a shoe or anything. They have like a place called observational placement. And if you get enough demerit points or you do like you get into a fight, I never saw one fight the whole time I was down there, but major violations of the rules, you go to OP and it's a room with no AC, with the windows shut, those little shutters, and you got to lay on a towel on your face all day long. And you get up a couple of times a day and they PT the shit out of you. And your diet is reduced to beans and rice. And I think I went in there only one time. I was down there for 15 months. And I went in there once just for like talking back basically to a supervisor. And actually while I was in there, one of the girls from the girl side jumped off the building and killed herself. She just got there, and that dread, you know, they're telling you when you get down there, you've just been kidnapped, and I had to be driven from Tampa to Miami to get on a plane, and now I'm in a third world country. You got to drive from Montego Bay out to Treasure Beach, yeah, St. Elizabeth Parish. This is a surreal experience, you know, and then they're telling you your parents don't want anything to do with you. Settle in for the long stay. You're 14 years old, and you're not getting out of here until you're 18 if you don't complete the program. And if your parents don't want you back when you're 18, we're going to give you $50 and a plane ticket to Miami. And they tell this girl that, and she jumped off the building herself. Like, and the reality is, like, I think maybe one kid I ever heard of that happened to him, where his parents wouldn't take him back. He turned 18. Right. They sent him to Miami, $50. He joined the army. Like, and then I'm down there while 9/11 happens. So I'm thinking, worst case scenario, they're going to go to war. This country's going to go to war. Because I didn't really know all the details, but I knew that we were attacking Afghanistan afterwards. Right. And I'm thinking my only option is that I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to be 18. I'm going to have $50 in my pocket. I'm going to have to go to an army recruiter, join the army, and I'm going to go to war and die. Like, that's a lot to put on a kid. An indefinite sentence is pretty extreme for basically just being like a troublemaker. Right. You know?
So when do you get released?
Well, a few of the kids I think had heard about. So in the documentary in Ivy Ridge, they rioted and took the school over and destroyed the place. So I don't know how these kids took over. I don't know how they found out about that while we were there because you're locked down. I wrote a letter to my mom, my brother, my other brother, my dad, and my grandma. I wrote one letter to each person every single week for 15 months, and my mom only wrote me back when she got letters. So how many letters is that I sent? And she only wrote me 6 letters back. So they were like, there's no communication. I didn't talk to my mom until I'd been there for a year. Right. So I don't know how these kids found out that maybe one of the kids had, after the riot, maybe in Ivy Ridge, had gotten sent to Tranquility Bay. That's the name of the school in Jamaica. And
that sounds nice.
Yeah, and they're like, oh, well, we should do that here too. And
Tranquility Bay.
Nice. It sounds great in a brochure. You're like, oh, he'll get the help that he needs. I think there was even on the website, I think there was a kid like riding a jet ski. And it was nothing like that. This is like, when you tell people it's a boarding school, they're thinking like, oh, Hogwarts, you guys are probably whipping each other with towels and having a good time. No, it was like Hogwarts meets Midnight Express. Okay? Like, it's Scary Potter, not Harry Potter. Like, it was fucked up. Corny. Like, you know, right? I'm a wordsmith, man. Right. You can expect more of that in my books. Ellis Jones, go pick them up on Amazon. So these kids plan a riot, and they get caught because they're idiots. They like write it all down what their plans are.
Right.
Like, and these kids are talking about. I heard one of the kids talking about the plans after it all got busted up. And he's like, yeah, we were going to grab one of the guards and stab him up a bunch. And I was like, you're going to grab a Jamaican guy who runs barefoot, plays soccer all day long. Like, they're going to break your neck. Like, you're not taking this school over. Some of these motherfuckers were beasts, dude. Like, that was never going to happen. It was a pipe dream. So, but they get busted. They find a bunch of shanks. I do know that there was some.
Whoa, that's serious.
Yeah, I mean, but is it? Do they even know how to fuck it? These are, I don't even. Now that I'm an adult, I'm like, do these kids even know how to make a shank?
Right.
Like,
And who knows if it was really a shank?
Right.
Like
or it could have been like just they were stacking up toothbrushes to make shanks. They didn't know how to do the whole melt cellophane onto the thing and sharpen it in the
wrap it
grout.
in duct tape so that you can get the handle.
Yeah,
and,
they didn't know that. I very seriously doubt any of them were that advanced
savvy.
Of a criminal.
Yeah.
Like these are kids who are like 17 to 12, and half of them were soft as baby shit. They just like had been to every military school and every boarding place and gotten kicked out. A big seller of the school to like rich parents was like, oh, you keep sending your kids to these schools and they figure out ways to get kicked out so they get to go home. Well, we'll never kick your kid out.
As long as you keep paying.
As long as you keep paying. Yeah.
We'll just keep him in a concrete box if we have to. But he'll stay here.
Yep. He ain't going nowhere. Not until you say so. So right around that time,
they're gonna have a riot.
They're gonna have a riot.
It gets broken apart.
It gets broken apart. There was a new kid who had come and he snitched them all out. I knew he was a snitch as soon as I saw him. But he just had a snitch. Nothing against snitches, but there are some people. You snitched out of necessity. I'm not saying I would do the same thing. I would never admit publicly to that, but that's a snitching out of survival. This kid was born a snitch. I can see it in his face. He comes from a long line of snitching motherfuckers. And so he snitches on him, gets it all broken up, and at the same time, I had gotten like higher up on the levels, so I finally got phone calls with my mom, and just like a miracle, one day I'm getting my phone call, and the caseworker gets up and walks away from the phone, and I wasn't even going to say anything because they sit right there and listen to you because they don't want you to manipulate your parents into getting you out of the school. Like, it's terrible, get me out of here. Because by then I'd already kind of just accepted my fate.
Right.
I'm not super traumatized by it. Like a lot of people are. I try to be respectful of it, but to me, I was just bored, and it was whack as fuck. Like at first, it was heartbreaking, but I got over it. It's like in the Navy when you cross the equator, you're a polywog before you do, and then afterwards you're a shellback. You got to get hazed. Like it's Navy people will get it. I don't know, but like I just felt like at some point mentally I turned a corner where I was really heartbroken and fucked up by it, and then I just got tough. Yeah, and like it's just a thing I got to deal with. Yeah. And like make it easy for yourself. Same thing happens in prison.
You get to a certain point where you just accept it, and it suddenly stops being a big deal.
Yeah, it didn't matter to me anymore. And I just enjoyed beautiful sunsets, and like the clouds would come and dip into the mountains right behind the wall, and then I befriended a guard. I don't think I should say his name, but he was a stoner, and I knew he was high all day long. I mean, this guy's eyes as red as the devil's dick, like just fucked up all day, and he's trying to play it off. So I called him out on it one day, and he's like, have you tried Jamaican ganja? And I'm like, no, obviously not. I got kidnapped, brought here, and I've been behind a wall for a year. So we somehow cooked up a scheme where we could, there's only two sports that you could play, basketball and tennis. Because this used to be a hotel, and the Mormons bought it and turned it into this prison, put bars in the windows, and now it's a school. So there were a couple of like beat up tennis rackets, and basically like the white kids played tennis and the Spanish and black kids played basketball. Not stereotypes. It was just they didn't even. When I went to go play basketball, they would throw the ball at my head, pretend they were passing it, throw it at my head to knock my glasses off because they just didn't want me out there.
Right.
So what we did was we would knock the tennis ball over the fence, and you got to take a staff member out there to go with you, and we'd blaze it up. And I got so stoned and so paranoid that I think I only did it maybe twice, and I just refused. I could have smoked every day with this guard. It would have been no problem.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, I can't be in this strict boarding school where I'm
stoned,
being looked over constantly, and I'm stoned to the bone, like because it's powerful shit. And they smoke Fronto paper. I call it voodoo paper. It's like this special kind of strain of tobacco that they take white paper, they put the Fronto on it, and they put the weed in there, and it makes you even higher, like 8th grade stone, like the first time you were ever high.
Right. 8th grade stone.
So I get the I think it was my very first phone call with my mom, and this caseworker gets up and she goes, my mom just perfect timing goes, if I brought you home now, you think you could do better? And I was like,
I would be so good.
I was like, you have no idea. Like, yeah, please. Like, but I was like, yeah. I just said yes because I didn't want to hear. If I said I would be so good,
yeah.
If the caseworker overheard that manipulation, I'm probably going to get busted down a level. Like that's how on top of you they were, And yeah, but my birthday came up. I got a letter from my grandma. My grandmother sent me. I could have a necklace now, so she sent me a little gold rope chain. She probably got at Walmart, and a copy. I asked for a copy of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I heard it in one of those self-help tapes, and I wanted to figure it out, And so she sent me that, and in the book she wrote, "Your mother has another surprise for you, coming up soon." And so it was a combination of like, my kid's probably not safe. They're probably not telling me everything, and she also ran out of money. So they she had to cash in her retirement. We were not wealthy. Like there's some kids down there who were wealthy, and I'm also pretty sure that my mom got some kind of financial aid.
Okay,
because I think that the school was like $60,000 a year or something.
Fuck,
like $5,000 a month. And there's no way. Even when my mom cashed in her retirement at the time, there was no way she could have afforded that with 2 other kids to feed. So I think they had like a sliding scale. But when I got back, I'm like, "Did you bring me home because of the riot?" And she's like, "What riot?" And I'm like, they didn't tell you? These kids were planning on rioting, taking the school over. And one of the kids told me, because I had gotten upper levels, right? So you get it like a job, not upper levels, but I had gotten up to level 3, and you kind of get a job to help the guard out. When you get to the upper levels, they make you into a staff member.
Right.
So you get to go giving kids demerits and shit, and you're expected to do it. If you don't, you're in trouble. But when you're like level 3, you get to kind of like hand out the treats. You're like a trustee, basically.
Right.
Like, but my job was keeping track of the demerits. So I could keep everybody, I could be in everyone's favor because I can make demerits disappear.
Right.
But then you have to make some of them stick. So I would kind of, if a new guy came in, all his demerits were going in the book.
Yeah.
Because you got to learn. And you got to get so pissed off at this shit that you got to get the shell back. You know what I mean? So you're going to have to go to study hall, and the guard's going to meet his quota on you until you toughen up a little bit.
Right.
But then all these other guys who have been here who like one demerit, you get 10 demerits in a week. That's a BRV. That's a blatant rule violation. You got 10 demerits. So not only do you get the -10, you get -50 because now you got to go write a 5,000 word essay by hand in a sweaty room.
Right.
Right. So a guy who's been there for a while, he's my boy. He's getting his 10th demerit. I can make that disappear. Well, not everybody looked at it like that. When they were planning on the riot, one of those shanks had my name on it.
Right.
Like I'm considered a cooperator, right? And
sympathizer.
Yeah, pretty much. But I was doing the best of what I had. You know what I mean? I'm trying to make it work, but trying not to make it as cruel as it could be for some of the kids.
What's another word they used is oh God, it's you're not cooperator, not sympathizer. It's oh, there's another
turncoat?
Word. No, not that's like a saying. No, it's not sympathizer. It's collaborator.
Collaborator, Nazi collaborator.
Yes, Nazi collab. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Collaborator.
Yeah. That's funny as fuck. But I wasn't. I mean, anybody who would have been put in the position, I think they would have been crueler and had more of an agenda. Because I talked to some survivors. I went down after I watched the documentary, I went down this like forum or something, and everybody who posted a phone number, I called every phone number, cold call, telemarketer style, and I only got 3 people on the phone. And basically, the 3 were like a pretty good example of I think how everyone interpreted it in their own way. Like the first kid is like a redneck from Maryland. What up, Steven? And he's just like telling me stories like, yeah, man, I'm driving my truck and I got pipe on that thing so loud it just breaks car windows out when I'm on the freeway. He's like a troublemaker still, but he's like whatever. It's fucking cool. Like I want to go to Maryland and drink beer with him. Like,
right.
And then there was another guy from Queens who's like, yeah, my mom told me I was going to be down there for a year, and I was just bored. Like I think that if you had some mental health problems, that like it could make it worse. But I was just bored the whole time. And then I called another guy, and it sounded he was like, hello? Like he had a pistol in his mouth when he answered the phone, and he just sounded like Eeyore from, like Winnie the Pooh, like
right.
just clinically depressed. Like, and he even said something like, I'm not making fun of him or anything. Everybody interpreted it their own way. Like, but he's like, yeah, I was pretty depressed, for like until like pretty much like the last 2 years, and I was like, damn, bro, it's been 20 years since I was down there. Like, I don't know where I turned hit the switch mentally where it's like, are you gonna be fucked up about this your whole life? Like, are you gonna be burnt with injustice your whole life? You gonna turn into Batman? What are you gonna do? Like, are you gonna just be like, this is something crazy that happened, you know? And like,
yeah, it's like going to prison. Some people get out of prison and it becomes having gone to prison is their
whole identity.
Whole identity for the rest of their life. And the other people are like, yeah, I went for like 6 years. It was, it sucked. But anyway,
so now I let my hair grow and I beat up a couple dudes. Like, you know,
so now
I got it really into give myself manicures, you know? Like,
now I own a construction company and we build new houses. Like, well, I don't even think about it anymore.
Yeah, I got my GED. You know what I'm saying? Converted to Islam, did my time. You know what I'm saying? So I get out and nothing changed. My brothers they had been giving my mom a hard time and they had really resented me while I was gone. I don't know why. I think it's just because you're not there. It's easy to like villainize you. Yeah. You know? And one of my brothers said to me one time that basically I was the reason that my parents split up. Like my dad was so abusive that my mom told him she didn't really know that he was like beating the shit out of us. Right. Because she worked a lot. She was the breadwinner and he'd get off before her, and if punishments were meant to be dealt out, then he would be the one to do it. And she basically, once she figured out that he was beating us up, she was like, you put your hands on the kids again and I'm out of here. Right. Like, and one day I was arguing with him or whatever, and he grabbed me by my ears and bashed my head into a telephone pole. And she was like, I think she still tried to like get him to go to therapy with her. And I heard from the office or from the waiting room, and they were in the office, and I heard him say, if you were a better wife, I wouldn't beat the kids. Oh, okay. So then all I hear is high heels coming out the office, and my mom doesn't even look at me. She goes, Eli, let's go. Right. And I was like, all right, like that's it. And they got divorced. And he's still so in denial. I talked to him. I went and picked him up in Largo and drove him around. Just went and looked at all the new shit. That place is crazily overdeveloped now. Largo, like
every place is overdeveloped.
I mean, I'm just saying,
overdeveloped, or you mean just a lot of developments being built?
Yeah, like it just looks nicer, and like there aren't any houses that are in disrepair. Like they used to call it Larghetto because it was fucked up. You know, like it wasn't just that it was dangerous; it just looked trashy. Largo's a gorgeous place now. Right. And when I was a kid, it was like shithole. I used to call it a suburban slum. Right. It's kind of like how Long Beach goes from like crummy areas to nice areas really quick, and then once you cross that Orange County border, it's nice. Okay, I thought you were talking about just the overdevelopment of Florida. Like there's I've already known that was going on. We lived in Newport Richey right when they were starting to turn that from swampland into subdivisions.
Bro, it's insane here. Oh, it's insane. Like if you had the opposite way you came, it's one massive subdivision after another, after another, after another. I mean, it's outrageous. And these houses are being built. They're 10 feet apart. And they're 10 feet, and they're massive. Are they those? They're 2,500 square feet.
Are they the McMansion? Like same floor plan, different direction.
Of course, just like when you came in here, it looks like the Truman Show. It's like there's 5 floor plans with 8, and each one has 4 different faces that they can swap out, plus the color scheme. But really, it's the same. I used 5 to hate
that kind of shit. Like I never wanted to live in some homogenized community, but driving in here, I was like, I think I'm ready.
Nice.
I think I'm ready for this. I think I'm at an age where I'm like, yeah, it's time. So. Ellis Jones books. We'll do an infomercial later, but I need y'all. I want to move to the suburbs. Okay, I live in the hood. I'm tired of it.
Listen, everybody waves to you. Everybody's nice.
I'm not even from here.
There's fountains.
Yeah. There's a little bridge to go over when you come in.
Oh, yeah, I don't feel like I belong here. I'm driving here like.
Well, you know, I've started. I don't really hang out with people who look like me anymore because I'm like I'm such an extreme personality. I'm too high profile. They see me as a threat. Like people who look like me are generally very concerned with how cool they appear to be. I didn't get these tattoos to say anything about myself. I worked at a tattoo shop. It was a hazard of the job, right? And so I don't really hang out with a lot of skaters or surfers or tattooed people anymore. Like I hang out with just normal ass motherfucker. Like I got a friend who's just like a regular guy. Like I don't like people who belong to a group. Like when you think of metalheads, you think of me. I'm into metal, or I'm a surfer. Like that's my identity. I went to prison. I'm an ex-con. Like you're Matt Cox. You rob people of the real experience of you when you think that you belong to this group, right? And also, I was in a therapy cult. I was in a cult, and I studied sociology and everything, and now it's like all I can see with groups of people is how are they thinking in mob mentality? How is this a cult? How is this social norm?
When is the therapy? You mean you mean as a kid?
Jamaica.
The Jamaica thing. Okay.
I call it a therapy cult.
Okay, well I know you were associated with that.
Yeah. So I developed, like, I have this saying that's in some of my songs and my books is the rules aren't meant to be broken, they're meant to break people. And that goes for social enforcement mechanisms. I mean, how many scenes do you know where it's like a faux pas? You know, in surfing and in skating, we have like what I call kook law. There's these unwritten rules of the culture that if you violate them, you're a kook, you're not really part of this, you know? And it's just that exclusionary kind of shit. All it does is trigger me for this kind of manipulative control situation that I was in a cult in a third world country, you know, that like, and I also developed a different tier to the chip on my shoulder after that, where I was like, every authority figure has failed me. Every family member has failed me. And this world will grab a hold of you, kidnap you in the middle of the night, and do whatever it wants to you. So after I got out of there, when I was not received well by my family or my neighborhood, there were kids in my neighborhood who didn't even believe that it happened. I would have to bring my brother out and be like, tell him. And then they're like, okay, we believe you. They just thought I was a liar. Like maybe I went to go live with a family member or something, and I was like, I was in a Jamaican concentration camp, like, because it really was.
That
like
does not sound. No, I know.
It sounds like a fly.
I'd be like, stop it, bro.
So I'm used to, like, I don't care. I'm sure there are gonna be people in the comments like, this guy's making all this shit up. Like, that's happened since day one, since I was back.
Well,
like,
I know. Listen, you know, there was I want to say it was called White House or White Castle or something. Anyway, there's a school. There's a famous school.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, in Florida, where it was a juvenile. It wasn't a school. It was a juvenile facility for kids, and they were killing the kids. Like they've recovered like 100 bodies, like beside the school.
Oh my god! Oh, I did hear about
back in the 40s and 50s, 30s, 40s, and 50s.
And it was a lot of minority kids were getting sent there from group homes and stuff. Like if they were a trouble in a group home, they'd get sent there.
Yeah, they'd get sent there, or if they were whatever. If they got caught, you got caught shoplifting 2 or 3 times. They said, okay, we're going to give them 2 years here. They'd send them there, and then their families, they'd be writing letters, and then the letters would stop coming, and then maybe at some point the family would go down there and say, hey, my son was supposed to be released a few months ago. I haven't heard from him in a year. Like, what's happening? And they're like, well, we released him. Okay, well,
where is he?
Where is he? Like, he's 16 years old or he's 15 years old. Like, you've had him since he's 13. Where is he? And they're like, oh, we don't know. We gave him a bus pass. He was supposed to go back to the city to go with you. Sorry that he didn't show up. Like, what are we supposed to do? He's a bad kid. He just spent 2 years in prison.
Yeah,
he's a 16-year-old, but really he's buried in a hole in the back because these guards were him, and he was going to squeal, and they just killed him one day and threw him in the bucket. I heard story. I talked to my friend Amah. He was my friend down there, and we've spoken a few times since we got out. And he was saying that there was some kind of sex abuse shit going on, and that they ran the guard. I think he's one of those dudes, like, people who go to jail and they're getting punked out for their tray, and they're being extorted, and they're having a rough time in jail. Right? They don't know how to operate. And then they get out of jail and they're like, man, I was in there, I was running, I had all these cookies, I was winning in spades. Yeah, like, so I think maybe there's an element of that. I don't want to piss him off because he's going to watch this, but like maybe he needs to come on here and share his story and you can determine for yourself. But we were so locked down. And like, look, if he said something about they were running the guard, they had control over the guards or some shit, and I was like, how? What? In prison, you have to have money, to get a guard on your side. There, you have nothing. So were you exchanging sexual favors for to control the guards? Like, and I just don't believe with how locked down the school was. I don't believe that a guard could have taken anybody anywhere and fucked them or whatever. And something you got to understand about Jamaicans is that they are the most homophobic people on the planet Earth. Right. If you're gay, they will come to your village and they will light you on fire. They will chop you up with machetes. Maybe, just maybe, they'll let you go live down in a gully in Trenchtown. Right. And they'll call you a gully queen, and you have to live in a gutter. Like, if you're gay, if you're openly gay. So I don't believe that these Jamaicans were taking kids and molesting them. Well, I wasn't suggesting that. I know you're not, but there were kids who, after the fact that I've talked to, they said that are saying that this was going on, and I was like, I don't think it's always the go-to move, is sexual abuse of some kind. Right. So anyway, I get out and I really gave it a try. I tried to go back to school, and I found out as soon as I got there, I get to Texas, right? My mom had moved to Texas while I was gone, and I get to Texas, and it's like this. It's north of Dallas. It's like developed cookie cutter houses, suburbs for miles, like that show, like North Texas McMansionville, right? Right. And it's like, now I'm the weirdest kid. There's no one to relate to. At least in Florida, there's a bunch of scumbag kids
that I know they'll get it, you know?
Right.
Like, but here I'm just the weirdest person that could be here. And I find out that none of my credits that I earned, I was almost done with high school while I was down there. None of my credits, not accredited. None of the schools in America accepted credits from Tranquility Bay or any of the WASP programs, as far as I understand. I could be wrong. But I get back, I'm 16, go in there right before I turn 15, get out right after I turn 16. And now I'm still a 16-year-old freshman. I have like 1 credit in high school. So they're like, I had 1 credit to get out of the 9th grade. So I had to take algebra, and then they're like, you got to fill the rest of your day up with electives. So I was like just picking creative electives. I took like sign language, and I took world agriculture because I was like, I'm gonna learn how to grow some weed, man. Mm-hmm. And that's not what world agriculture is about. No. It's like you get to adopt a goat and you have to raise the goat for a Future Farmers of America show or something. It's Texas, you know. And I really pissed off the teacher because he said something about 9/11, and he's like, and I know that American flag got closer to everyone's heart on 9/11. And I was like, what the f are you talking about? Like, what's 9/11? I had heard about the terrorist attacks, but I didn't know it was called 9/11. I didn't know what I was not there with you guys. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't go through this with you.
You were locked up.
I was in a third world country.
I was in a concentration camp in Jamaica. Haven't you heard about these things?
Right. And I said that in the class, and he just looked at me like,
you're crazy.
You. Like, he didn't say that, but like just with the nastiest look on his face. So I was like, I know Florida. I know bitches down there that will fuck me. You know what I mean? I've been beating my dick like it owes me money for the last 15 months. Like, I need to go get laid, and I need to go be around my friends. So my dad still lived in Florida. Even though he'd been beating me up when I was a kid, I was like, I'll take my chances. You know, I'm not getting along with my brothers. I'm a little resentful of my mom for doing this. I've come to realize that she was tricked too. Like, she's a victim here.
Right.
And so, as much as I am, I was just a kid when it happened, so it's more harmful, but she was a victim too. She had her kid kidnapped and held for ransom.
Right.
And I even think, and some of the survivors do not agree with this, but I think some of the guards are victims too, because these are poor people from Jamaica who are getting paid $10 American a day.
Right.
And they're in a socioeconomic situation where they can't say no to a job like that.
Right.
And some of them weren't sadistic. There were some, but like, if you grow up in a small village in Jamaica and you are told every day Americans are horrible, white people are horrible, they're the ones who brought you here from Africa, you're going to have a little chip on your shoulder too. And now it's your turn to hurt the white man. There were some guards that made it very uncomfortable for us down there. So, and then there were other ones who were just very strong Christians that were like, they're being told these are the worst of the worst American kids. Like, when I was working at a tattoo shop in Largo, a Jamaican lady came in with her granddaughter or daughter or something. And I was like, I went to that school in St. Elizabeth. And she stopped and looked at me like, you were in that school? Like, it's like folklore down there.
Right.
Like, America's sending their worst kids. But it wasn't the case. Like, some of them were just troublemakers. Some of them were just spoiled kids who just got kicked out of boarding schools. Like, and some of them were serious felons. But none of them were sociopaths or, I mean, maybe there's some sociopaths. But you can't. Those are hard to find. But nobody anybody. That I know of. Some of them probably have now. I mean, I try to look people up and stuff.
You're arguing against your case.
Am I really? I mean, I just think that
they're
a lot of people.
There's some of them sociopaths. Well, they probably have now.
Maybe now. Well,
You're having an argument with yourself.
I do this all day long. And I have an Australian Shepherd, so I have conversations like this with myself, and then I throw my dog's voice in there because I trained him in Australian. Yeah. So anyway, I spend a lot of time alone when I'm in Nebraska. When I'm in New York, I'm a little more social, but Nebraska nose to the grindstone, working and writing, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I get out, I give it a try. I'm still in 9th grade, but I'm 16. Mm-hmm. So I'm doing the math. It's not a lot of math. It's not hard. I'm going to be 20 years old when I get out of this high school, dude. So I'm not going to school. I'm over it. I'm not going to school.
GED time.
Yeah, but then my dad would not let me sign out of school. Because even if you're 16, you still have to have parental consent they call it signing out in Florida. Like, dropping out is not a thing, but it's a negative connotation. Dropping out, sign out.
How you have to be 18 or 17?
You have 16, I think, is the minimum, like the first age that you can legally, like if you're under 16, you have to be like homeschooled, and it has to be like a legitimate homeschool program to get out of.
Because I feel like
high school.
My buddy Trent signed out when he was 17.
Yeah, but he probably had to have his parents on board with that.
No,
he didn't.
Well, this was he may have been 18, but I think he was 17 because he went. It's funny. his dad was just. Anyway, he was a former Mr. Florida. He owned a bunch of gyms. They're called Cultas Fitness. He owned like 5 or 6 gyms.
Never heard of that.
And he was just a very, like, he would tell you, like, he dropped out of school in like the 5th grade. And he'd tell you, if I knew then what I know now, I would have dropped out in the 4th grade. He goes, because the truth is, I knew how to read by then.
Yeah.
And it was just like, holy shit. He's like, I didn't need any of that.
That's part of the reason that I didn't have any interest in school is like when I was probably in the 1st grade, my mom found a couple of babysitters in Texas when we lived out there that they were like they were either master's students or they had master's degrees.
Right.
And
they're
it was like more school. Yeah. They ran like a daycare out of there. They had like
That's
a lake
ridiculous.
that he built in the backyard. No, it was great because they educated the out of us.
I know, but I'm saying you end up getting, you have a master's degree and you're
that's your but
Yeah.
really I mean it was more people who have master's degrees stop bartending,
right?
Because I know a lot of bartenders with literature degrees,
yeah.
and start a kiddie daycare, and you're gonna help the kids. I mean, I learned more in that until I got into like higher levels of high school. I knew stuff that I learned from there when I was 6 years old. You know, I could draw a map of the world, a loose one, when I was 6 years old because of that.
Right. Well, Trent
daycare.
couldn't. So Trent signed out of school when he was 17. I remember I drove up there with him, and they told him, like, "Do your parents know this?" He's like, "I'm 17. I don't have to. They don't have to know anything." And he signs out, and they said, "Well, we're going to call your parents." He goes, "Call them." So that night, we went to his house, and they were having dinner. And so it's dinner time. So his little brother comes in and sits down. Trent comes in. I sit down to have dinner with them. Frank's there at one end of the table. His mom's there, and she serves everybody and sits down, and we're all eating, and it's kind of quiet. And all of a sudden, his mom's name was Tina. She looks over at Frank, the husband, and Trent's father. She looks up and she goes, "You gonna say something?" He goes, "About what?" And she goes, "What do you mean? What?" Like that. He goes, "Oh yeah." He goes, "Hey," he's Italian. He looks at Trent. He goes, "Hey, Lode." He goes, "How was school today?" And Trent goes, "Best day of school I've had," he said, "in years." Like that. And he goes, and Frank goes, and he goes, "What?" And she looks at him and he goes, "What?" And she's like,
"That's like from The Sopranos, bro."
She's just like, "What the fuck?" And she's like, "Well, what are you going to do now?" He said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I'm going to get a job." He goes, "I don't need to learn." His dad dropped out of the 5th grade. And he said, "I'll be fine." He just kept eating. And I'm sitting there thinking, my God, what would happen in my family if I suddenly dropped out of school? I'd be terrified. Right. And I'm sitting there eating. Frank's laughing. This kid, Treon's like, he doesn't know what's going on, And I'm just sitting there eating. And it's like, listen, being around that family was such entertainment. Treon actually got like a contract. Like he's 18. When he turned 18, got a contract with Calvin Klein.
Whoa.
To be a model for Calvin Klein, right? Super over the top, good looking guy. Goes down to Miami, never been away from home in his life. Goes down to Miami for his first shoot with Calvin Klein. Goes into the water on the beach. Goes to the beach. They put him on a hotel on the beach, top notch. Goes out in the water. He's standing there in the water.
Barracuda. Barracuda gets him?
No. Oh. Looks around, and he suddenly starts thinking, like, there's a lot of gay people here. And then he starts thinking, you can get AIDS from gay people. This is back in the fucking 90s, right? Or late 80s,
people
early
wouldn't
90s.
Even drink out of the same cup or water fountain.
Like you're not going to get, and he started thinking, these gay people are in the water. I'm in the water.
I'm going to get AIDS.
I'm going to get AIDS. And he has a massive panic attack. In to have a panic attack, your body will manufacture situations that are just unreasonable.
Yeah.
And everybody has different versions of it. And suddenly he starts trembling and he's uncontrollably terrified. He gets out of the water, goes back to the hotel, packs up his bags. Immediately he thought he wanted to see his mom. Right. I want to see my mom before I die. Goes back, packs up his shit, gets into his car, drives all the way back to Tampa, goes back in there, tells his mom and dad what happened. Never answers the phone. The people from Calvin Klein are calling nonstop for a week.
Jesus
Never answers
Christ.
the phone. Doesn't know what happened.
Wow.
Holy shit.
Dude, I had a roommate like that I was staying in a Russian tenement in Brooklyn, and one roommate had moved out. The Ukrainian guy that was running it got another kid that he was square as a box of Apple Jacks and twice as green. Should not be living in a place like this in Bushwick. And we got him stoned the first night that he moved into the apartment, and he had full-on panic attack. When called his parents and got a hotel, like, I don't think I can live here, man. I already paid a security deposit. He was afraid of us, and we're just like a couple of stoners. You know, we're not doing anything illegal, but yeah, I don't know.
But the paranoia just took over.
Yeah, got him. That's why, you know, if you ever have panic attacks, man, I don't like taking Xanax because I don't like being high, but you can take a beta blocker. It's a heart tranquilizer. And it will, because you start to feel those heart palpitations from it, and it will, if you can keep your heart tranquil, then your mind will fall, because the heart's following the mind, tranquilize the heart.
So I used to have panic attacks, right? Like I had Xanax.
I do too. I still do.
Well, what's funny about that is that in the middle of the panic attack, I would know it was a panic attack.
Right.
And so you've got it's like the little devil on one shoulder and the angel on the other. Like you're having a conversation where it's like, this is just a panic attack. You're going to be fine. The other one is saying, you are about to die. You know, you're going, it's like this argument and your heart's going nuts. And I'm like, and I practically have to sit down because I feel like I'm about to faint. And yet I'm still having this conversation where I'm saying, it's just a panic attack. And the other one is saying, no, it's not. You're about to be snuffed out. And then, you know, 30 seconds later, it dissipates and it's okay.
You ever done speed?
And you feel crazy. You feel like you're walking around for the next 30 minutes thinking, I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Like that was not normal.
Yeah, I got dosed with some speed on accident one time. Right. And I thought I was doing coke and it was
Doesn't
speed.
everybody?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's happened. There's speed and everything now. If you're doing white powders, there's probably speed on it. But I got a dude gave me the wrong bag and I did a bump of speed instead of coke, and it's kind of like that where your heart's out of control, your mind's racing, but you know that it's the drug that's doing it to you, but it's still the come down from speed. I could see how you could get addicted to it because you're schizophrenic for hours and you can't sleep. You're just stuck with auditory, visual hallucinations. We're getting all over the place, but
anyway, where were we?
We get back from Jamaica, right?
Yeah, you already got back from Jamaica.
Been to Texas.
Oh no, high school.
Went to Texas.
You got to get out of high school.
Yeah, went to Texas, go back to Florida, realized like I started banging like a 22 or 23-year-old chick almost as soon as I got down there. And I was like, why am I going to go to school and get harassed, beat up?
Yeah, this is all I need.
And I'm humiliated because I'm a 16-year-old freshman.
Right.
Like, you know, kids aren't, that's not funny. That's not cool. They're making fun of you because you're a 16-year-old freshman.
Right.
My homie Ian, who's like a famous chef now, he felt really bummed about it. He's like really embarrassed. Like, I'm almost done with Algebra 1 and then I'll be a junior. And he's 16 too, just because he couldn't pass algebra, you know?
Right.
So I was like, yeah, why am I doing this when like I know how to get money and I know how to bitches. That's all I wanted to do. They got me locked up in the first place, you know, sent down to Jamaica. So I go get my GED, go to P-Tech, take the GED, don't study, take the GED, pass it. Right. So now I can work and whatever. But so I get a job at McDonald's and I worked there for 15 seconds, dude.
Oh, okay.
I literally, I get the tour of the place. There's this guy, Brian, who's been there for 15 years and he has cheeseburger grease all over his face and pimples. And 15 years he's been at McDonald's. And I'm like,
he said, I can't do this.
I don't know how long I'm going to work here, but it ain't going to be that long. Like,
right.
And so I go to the bathroom to put my uniform on, and I walk out to the counter, and he goes, "You were born to wear that uniform."
And he said, I quit.
Turned around and took the uniform off, dude, and brought it back and threw it over the counter. That's it. Went out to the beach, got a job bar backing and bussing tables. And then eventually, like, when you're 16 and you're not going to school, right? And I don't know, I had this chip on my shoulder. I got down with a graffiti crew. And I was like, I don't even need to work anymore. Like, I got into like organized retail theft and vandalism was all I would do all day long. I would go to department stores in Largo and steal shit. I would take orders from people for groceries, for clothing, for lunch for the kids that were still going to school. You know, I had a shop set up, not a shop, but I mean, I would like have my backpack at this spot where everybody would smoke cigarettes before they went into Largo High School, and I would like have a concession stand basically of shit that I would just steal. Like, and then I was hanging out with some older kids and we'd go out and paint trains and ditches and shit at night. I was just living like a 25-year-old lifestyle when I'm 16, and you can't do that. Like, it's just a matter of time before you're going to end up locked up.
Right.
And I was dating an older chick. That was pretty fun. I mean, that was probably the best part of that whole year. But my dad's like, he knows what's going on. He doesn't know what's going on, but he knows what's going on.
Yeah, something bad's happening.
Yeah,
You're doing something to make money.
And when I say large school, like, I mean, I was taking Walmart to trial, dude. Like, you know how remember they used to have you get the stock radio in your car and it doesn't have a CD player in it. It's just got a cassette. So they would sell the replacement one where you can take the face off of it so no one can steal it.
Yeah.
And they're kept in the little glass thing. I got one of those at Walmart. I mean, I was like, I didn't even need it. I ended up selling it, but like no one put an order in for it. And I was just like challenging myself. I was just directionless. Like, you know, all I would do all day long is smoke, skateboard, and steal shit. And I did not mind. At that point, I was not afraid of going to jail. Like, I'd already been locked up in horrible conditions, and I'd been to JDC, the little, you know, it's basically a county jail for juveniles, right. JDC. And no fear of going to jail. I'm under 18. There's no consequences.
Yeah.
Like, so one day I'm out skating with a buddy of mine, and we stop at a Burger King, and I have enough money to get a little bit of food, but I don't have enough to get something to drink. So everyone's done this. You ask for a cup for water, and you fill it up with soda. Right. And usually if it's a clear cup, what you want to do is get Sprite, because it looks like water.
Right.
Well, the homie goes back to get a refill, and he gets orange soda. And the manager comes out from behind the counter and loses his shit and starts raising hell. And I just bolt out the door. But I look back, and the manager's between the door and my buddy. He's not letting him leave. So I come back in and get in between the two of them, and I'm like, we're leaving. Like, don't try to keep us here. You can call the cops if you want to, but you're going to let him leave.
Right.
And so whatever, he's not from this country. He's an immigrant. So if he gets in trouble, he's going back to where he came from. I don't want to say where because he'll know I'm talking, or somebody will figure it out. But anyway, he runs off. I'm not taking it serious at all. Every day, you got to understand, being a skateboarder at this point in time in Pinellas County, a police state like Pinellas County, you're encountering the police every single day. And it was okay socially for people to roll by you while you're skateboarding and call you a skater faggot. And if you said anything back to them, they would come and you up. So every day was some kind of tango like this. So I'm not thinking anything of it. And I think I like stopped somewhere to smoke some. And I had one of those markers that has the pull out. The bottom of it is a pipe.
Okay. I don't know, but okay.
But whatever. Anyway, I had that on me, and I'd smoked some and just put it back in there, and a cop comes around the corner, and he's like, were you just at the Burger King? I'm like, yeah. All right, he's like, you got to come with me. Clacks me up, puts me in handcuffs. And I'm thinking, this is all for a 99-cent soda.
Right.
Right? So he takes me back over there, and then he gives me over to the cop who's taking the report from the Burger King manager. And the cop's like, well, what happened? And I'm like, we came in, we asked for water, we took soda. And he's like, so you didn't swing your skateboard at him? And I was like, what the fuck? No. Like, and he's like, oh, you didn't. Then why are employees and customers and the manager telling me that you swung your skateboard at him? And I was like, you mean to tell me I took an 8 1/4 inch plank of wood and swung it at this guy's beach ball size head and didn't hit him?
Right.
That's what you're telling me. And he took me to jail for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. So then I go to court, and the judge says, I'm thinking I can plead guilty to the petty theft for 99 cents.
Right.
And no contest or something, or not guilty to the aggravated assault.
Right.
The judge says, I want one plea for both of these charges. So go out there and talk to your probation officer in the hallway. And when you come back in here, have one plea for both of those charges. And I'll tell you right now, if you come back in here with a not guilty plea and you take this to trial, and you want to take this to trial, I will make sure that the DA files this into the adult system. Direct file. I'm 17 now at this point.
Right.
And a direct file is when they charge you as an adult.
Right.
Right. So, and he's like, and if you are convicted, you will get 5 years in a state penitentiary, and I will make sure that you do at least, I mean, you had to do 85% of do you still in Florida in state prison? Yeah. And you're going to do 85% of your sentence. So I'm thinking, I'm 17, I'm going to be 23 when I get out of prison. But he's like, if you plead guilty today, I'll put you on probation. So it didn't take much time to deliberate. Right. You know, I just took probation. Now, I'm 17 years old. I'm committing crimes every single day to survive. Basically, my dad was like, just stop being a dad. He was at his girlfriend's house every night and wouldn't buy groceries for the house. Like, we'd get into fights, and he'd throw me out, and then he'd report me as a runaway. So to absolve himself of his kid being out of the house when he's not supposed to. So now I'm basically spending every day like I'm on the run.
Right.
You know? And But I get a super cool probation officer. This dude looks like Shaq. I actually used to sell. It did. It looked just like Shaquille O'Neal. His name was Pierre. Big dude. I don't want to say. Can you say big black guy? He's a big black guy.
Yeah.
He looked like Shaquille O'Neal. His name was Pierre. I always thought that was funny. He's got this kind of like pussy ass name, but he would you up.
Where's Pete?
What?
Pete's name's Pierre.
No,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Pete. No, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Anyway, he's like, you're not a bad kid. You're not a criminal. He doesn't know what I've been up to. I'm really not. I'm a petty thief.
Yeah.
I'm not a real criminal. He's got armed robbers on his book. He's got
17-year-olds that are doing home invasions.
Yes, yeah, 100%. Florida. Kick dough shit is what they call it here. So, for real though, and I ended up locked up with some of those kids. So, he's like, and it's intensive probation. So I got to be indoors by 7 o'clock every night. So no going out and painting graffiti all night long anymore.
Right.
Not supposed to. I was still doing it, but I'm not supposed to. And the rule is I got to be at the house at 11 a.m. every day for Pierre to come by, and I got to sign his book.
Okay.
Like, he has to make contact with me every single day for intensive probation. So he's like, I don't care what the you do. Just make sure you're here at 11 a.m. every day, sign my book, and I'm going to get you off probation.
Okay.
Well, Pierre goes on vacation, and his of a supervisor takes over. Can I not say that?
Probably shouldn't say that.
Why? What?
Because it might be an issue for us.
Oh, really?
We have to try and get this. We have to try and get this monetized.
Can you? Okay. Yeah. But she wasn't.
Okay. She was an issue.
Yeah. She had it out for me as soon as she saw me.
Right.
Like, and she's like, "Well, you think if I drug tested you, what would happen?" And I just didn't say anything, And then the next day, the van pulls up with all the other juvenile delinquents.
Right.
and then she takes me and drug tests me. And what had happened was I missed. He goes on vacation, and I missed the the check-in with her.
Right.
I had been out all night doing something with a buddy. And the fucked up thing was I was out with the kid who I got arrested with in the first place. The one who's such an idiot that he didn't know not to get orange soda.
Right.
I was out with him, and what we would do is his dad was a 911 operator at night. So he was at this place right down the street from their house from 7 at night till 7 in the morning. So we would skate down to his car, and he had a spare key, and we would steal his car, and we'd go out joyriding on Clearwater Beach and stuff. So we were getting back late to where he needed to get the car back, or we'd get caught. But he's going by my house. All he had to do was stop the car. He would not pull over. I was like, it's almost like he wanted me to get caught. You know?
Right.
So he's like, just come stay at my house, and then I'll get you back in the morning. And I ended up being late and missing a check-in with the lady. And then she says the whole thing about, what if I drug tested you? She takes me in for a drug test. I get violated. I go to court. I think me and my dad started arguing in court in front of the judge. And the judge is just like, I can tell that you're boiling over with anger, so I'm going to remand you until we got to find somewhere for you to go. We're going to sentence you somewhere, but we're going to hold you in JDC until it's time to go. So
right.
I have the hearing to where they're going to sentence me. And I had a mental health diagnosis because of the Jamaica thing.
Right.
Right. And the psychiatrist at the hearing is like, I don't think that sending him to boot camp is going to be good for his psyche if he has this mental health diagnosis.
Okay.
And my dad just goes off about, that's bullshit. He's been using that as a crutch. It's not real. He doesn't have a mental health diagnosis. But they still decide they're not going to send me to boot camp. That's what I'm told when I leave the hearing, right? And so I go back to my cell. My probation officer comes back a couple days later, and he's like, all right, I got some good news and some bad news. He's like, good news is in a couple days, you're going to get out on electronic monitor. You need to go home for a little while. The bad news is you're going to boot camp. Okay. And I had heard all the stories that boot camp was this really gnarly experience.
Right.
They have like a shock program for younger kids where they'll take them into the Pinellas County boot camp for like a 12-hour stay, not the kids who are doing the 6 months there. It's an 8-month program. 6 months of boot camp, 4 months of boot camp, 4 months of transition. This story gets pretty wild, pretty quick. You look like you're getting bored, but no, I'm just playing. But so I go to boot camp, and I actually had an opportunity to abscond. The first night that I get out of JDC, I get out late. My dad had to come pick me up after he got out of work. So they're like, go straight home, don't go anywhere. The electronic monitor guy is going to come put your ankle bracelet on. And this guy, he ended up coming the next morning. He's a million years old. He was probably already asleep by the time I got out of JDC. But my homie Jake came and picked me up. And we went out to Clearwater Beach one last time, drinking beer and stuff. And I could have just ran away. I could have gone maybe to Texas. But who knows what was going to happen? You know what I mean? How in Florida, they all give you absconding can be, when you go to court, can be called escape.
Right.
You were supposed to be on electronic monitor and you absconded.
Right.
So I could end up getting the 5 years for the aggravated assault plus another 5 for escape.
Right.
So I'm like, I might as well just take it. I might as well just go to boot camp, even though I know I'm going. And or now that I know I'm going. So a couple days later, go to boot camp. It's hell on wheels. They're beating the shit out of the kids, throwing us into brick walls. Dude, they would run the clippers so long, shaving your head, that it would burn your skin because it would get so hot. Like,
right.
They would sexually humiliate you. Like, strip you down butt naked. And, my dad was already doing this shit to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you get 60-second showers. Like, from the first day that I was in there, like, they have 6 shower heads. You get 10 seconds at each shower head.
Right.
They just bring you in a line. And there were times when some of the sadistic guards would be like, you have to march in naked, military style, marching in. And the guards would be like, all right, nut to butt. And we're like, what? Like, and he's like, I don't think y'all understood me. I want your nuts on his butt. And he would stand there and make you, like, you try to get as close as you could without touching your dick to this dude. And the guy would stand there and make you do it.
All right.
Like, and they would do other fucked up shit. Like, they had a sandbox out in the PT area. And it was all dirty Florida beach sand, right? And they would make you PT in the sand. And then when you're all sweaty and stuff, make you squat down, grab handfuls of sand, and then jump up in the air and throw the sand all over you and your platoon mates, whatever you want to call it. And then they would march you back in. This would be like right before you're going to go to bed. You've already had your shower. Like, you're about to go to sleep. They would cover you in sweat and sand and then put you in the barracks. And if you shook any of it off, if they heard you in your cell trying to get sand off of you, they'd take you back out in the sandbox and make you just roll around in it, PT you until you're sweaty, and make you know how it is here in Florida. You're getting ready to go to the bar, you take a shower, you walk to the car, you need a new shower. That's how, I don't think people who don't live here understand how sweaty you get.
It's extremely hot, yeah.
Like,
and humid.
Yeah. So at some point I snapped, man, like, and I was like, I remember my friend Bird that I had gotten arrested with the first time. Mm-hmm. We're sitting in JDC and he's like, bro, you are in for hell on fucking earth if you go to boot camp. He's like, your best bet is to pretend like you are hearing voices and you are crazy and they're going to send you some pussy ass program at a hospital and you'll be playing PlayStation. Like, he's like, you better start on that right now or you're going there and you are going to want to yourself. That's how bad it is. Like, so I remember what he said, and I was like, I gotta beat these guys. Like, I've already had an abusive father. I've been in an internment camp in Jamaica. Like, the streets aren't nice either. It wasn't like, I had this fun year living like Fritz the Cat, just older women and stealing. It was a lonely, hard year before I went from Jamaica back into the juvenile program. And so I was gonna start with, I'm hearing voices. I'm gonna start working on a psych case, right? And I don't know why it's funny, but schizophrenia is not funny.
It's funny when you're faking it.
Well, it couldn't have worked out better because I come out of my cell, and so the boot camp at 49th Street was the old juvenile hall. It's a hall with a yellow line down the middle, showers, office for the guards, right? It's a hallway, and the yellow line, they call you out onto it. But so the doors don't have like a clasp. Anything. It's just, they're just open all the time.
Okay.
They're not locked or anything, but the facility is so maximum security that, like, you don't need to be locked in your cell because there's 4 Marine Corps drill instructors out there who are going to beat the living shit out of you if you try anything. And then, did they have the chair when you were in prison? Or it might just be a Florida thing, but they have.
What do you mean? Yeah, no, they have the strap down chair, right? Where they strap you down, so you can't move.
The back of police cars in Florida, they're plastic seats and they have like an indention so that they can put you in there with handcuffs.
Right.
So they have one of those just sitting on like a throne in all the jails in Florida, like county jails and state prisons. And if you do something that constitutes getting locked up in that chair, you're not getting out for 4 hours. So if you haven't taken a shit and 2 hours into your little stay in that chair, you got to take a shit, they're going to let you sit in that chair and shit your pants. They're not taking you out of it. So anyway, they don't need to have the doors locked, I guess is what I'm saying. Like, they have ways of torturing you that would make it, they completely you do anything like that. So I come out of my cell and I go, sir, yes, sir. Like I heard him call me out there. And he just looks at me with like the most evil look in his face, and he runs over to me and grabs me by my BDUs. We're wearing like camouflage shit. Grabs me and slams me into the door. And like it caught me off guard. I didn't know he was going to come do that. They would make you stand on line sometimes until you fell asleep standing up, and then they'd come and bang you into the door because it makes this really loud boom. So he comes over, slams me into the door. I lose my balance, think I'm going to fall back. My thumb goes between the door and the door jamb. And all my body weight goes back onto it. Completely crushes the middle bone in my thumb. So now, that's a victory, dude. I'm not doing push-ups anymore.
Right.
Like, I'm doing sit-ups. I'm about to get a six-pack. I'm about to get out of here and hit Clearwater Beach. And then even... And they're like, why did you come out of your room during the incident report? He started doing that. I don't know if you saw guards, the way they work, where they're like, so you came out and you broke the position of attention, and that's why your thumb got cut. He was telling me how it was my fault that my thumb got broken for his incident report. And I'm like, go ahead, dude. Like, absolve yourself of injuring me because I don't care. I'm not doing push-ups anymore now because I got a cast on my hand.
Right.
And this is one step towards... I'm working on my psych case to get out of here because I just want to beat you guys at this point. Like, I had no problem when I was 17 spending the rest of my childhood, my minor year in jail.
Right.
Because the streets were rough, home was rough. At least I had somewhere to sleep. You know what I mean? And food to eat. Like, and I'll get out. I'll be 18 and I can do whatever the fuck I want. I didn't want to do that, but I was okay with that happening. But I was not going to stay in this boot camp place. So I end up talking to the psychiatrist. She's like, you say you're hearing voices. You had an auditory hallucination. This guy called you out online and it resulted in you being injured. And then it wasn't working, right? Like they weren't going for it. They think it's a lie. And it's getting to the point where 6 weeks go by, cast is about to come off. And I'm like, God damn it, I'm going to have to start doing push-ups again. So they put me in an immobilizer when the cast comes off. I can take it off. And so I line up my foot every night when I would finish homework. I would line my foot locker up right here, put a book underneath it, and then knock the book out so that this heavy ass military foot locker would fall on my thumb. I was trying to keep it broken. So I know. I was desperate, dude. I mean, I'd really like to hear what you think about that. I want to know what that look was all about.
It sounds horrible. It is insanity.
Desperate people do desperate things, man. Yeah. So that was not working. The bone was still healing, right? So then I get, and this is probably going to make you cringe, but I get the bright idea that I'm going to make up some kind of crime. And I'm going to make up that I was involved in some kind of heinous crime outside before I got locked up that they will never be able to prove happened. So that it adds to the psych case. You know what I'm saying? They'll either think that I'm lying or they'll think that I'm hallucinating this. Right? Because I've already established that. That's already documented that I told the jail psychologist or psychiatrist that I'm hearing voices.
Right.
And one of the guards brought me aside and he's like, bro, you don't want to go down this path of telling these people that you hear voices. You don't want to go to a county jail psych ward. Because once it's on your record and you go to jail, they're going to put your ass in the psych ward every time to make sure that you're stable before they put you in general population, and that is hell on earth.
Yeah,
from what I've heard.
Yeah, psych ward is not. Yeah. It's not kicked back playing PlayStation.
It's not even. It's I've been in the psych ward in the hospital. Jail
and those aren't. And those aren't criminals. Those are just people that they were walking around the street.
We're talking about dudes who are throwing piss and shit all over each other, or drinking the jankum out of their toilet. Real criminally insane people. He's like, you don't want to go down that road. So anyway, I go down that road. Mm-hmm. And I tell him, I got something to confess. Me and my buddies, we were all out one night riding around. I think I told him we were in some kind of Cadillac, one of my dream cars. Because, people, I don't know if it's like this in prison, but in juvenile programs, all the kids do is lie to each other. They all just tell stories about they were doing this or they were doing that out on the outs, and they weren't at all. They're all liars. So anyway, I make up this story that me and my buddies were all out getting liquored up. And I get drunk and crash the car, and my buddy flies through the windshield of the car and dies. And we're in Indian Rocks Beach when this happens. And then I tell them that we load the body up in the trunk of the car and go to Newport Richie or something like that, ridiculously far away. And we're somehow going from, I don't know how many miles this would be, but it's a very urban It's a very densely populated area. I believe Pinellas County is like the most densely populated county in Florida.
Okay.
And there's no way you're driving a car with a hole in the windshield where a person came out all the way from Indian Rocks Beach to like Holiday, or I can't remember what I said, somewhere in like the swampy area of Pasco County. But they still get a detective from the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office to come down and take my statement. And I think I said one of my accomplices was my cellmate in JDC, because I knew that he was in Falkenberg. And then when they go interview him, they're going to be like, he's going to be like, what the f are you talking about? Like, I never met that kid on the outside. Like, we were just like, look it up. We were just cellmates in JDC.
Right.
And the person who allegedly died didn't exist. It was a made up person. Like,
so can you imagine 2 weeks later they come back and say we located the vehicle?
Right. We found the vehicle. we found the body.
We found. Yeah. You're like, huh?
I was willing to take that risk, but I knew it wasn't going to happen. So like,
we're formally charging you with. If I was a detective, I'd do it just to.
Just to fuck with
I'd
them.
be like, this is all bullshit, but I'm going to come back and I'm going to type up an arrest warrant. I'm going to type up an indictment. I'm going to type up formal charges, and I'm going to be like, you need to sign here. We're taking you to trial. What?
And then, I probably would have broke at that point.
That's true.
But yeah, so whatever. I just remember he came a couple of times to ask questions and whatever. And then I remember the last time he came, I heard him coming before he came and met with me, and I heard the guy say, I think I'm chasing a goose or some shit like that to one of the drill instructors.
You mean a ghost?
A goose. Like
a goose.
A wild goose chase. You know?
Right, yeah.
And the fact that with the statement that I gave, that they even put a detective on this is absurd. Like, I don't know what it was like in Hillsborough, but we were over-policed in Pinellas. Like, they have a very aggressive sheriff's department out there.
I know they have a real issue with crime.
They do.
They want it to go away.
Yeah, but
these bastards.
But they also kind of like.
What are you people thinking?
They don't have to do what they do sometimes, man. They go a
sometimes
little.
They've licked crime, and sometimes you just got to bully people after that. You don't have enough to do.
Right. Yeah, Sheriff Grady Judd.
I love Sheriff Grady.
I love him too, but I hated that mentality. Like, I know that sheriff's office mentality from because I was in sheriff's custody. Yeah. Like, so
hey, look, as a
very militant policing.
I was gonna say, as a tax-paying, law-abiding citizen, Grady Judd's great. As somebody who's on the cusp of breaking the law, he's a terror.
I'm so glad you say that, because now that I own a home and I play golf now.
Right.
Like, I live in a bad neighborhood where the cops don't come there. They don't do anything about anything that's going on there. And I was like, God damn, that Pinellas County Sheriff's Office was on some shit. Like, that they would never stand for this. Like, there's a 14-year-old on a four-wheeler with a shiesty mask on shooting a gun for fun. I'm not around. Like,
right.
And I was like, I would kind of appreciate a little bit of that here. Like, that would be nice.
Maybe somebody could take him, have a talk with that kid.
Yeah. Well, they're actually, my other house in Omaha, they have like a juvenile reform thing there where they're not even taking kids to jail. The cops, the kid in the street shot him or something, and now they're not doing anything
let
about
him run wild now.
There was a house next to mine that caught on fire, and I was talking to the arson inspector because it was 100% arson, and but he couldn't prove it. And he's telling me about a kid that's known in the neighborhood. He's carjacked people like 18 times at gunpoint, and they finally put him somewhere in probably like a punk ass little juvenile facility. So anyway, the detective determines that I'm full of shit. So he goes to the guards and says he's lying. And the sergeant at boot camp had already told me, if we find out that you're lying about this, we're going to recycle you into the next platoon, and your time's going to start all over again. So they were hard on us when we first came in. Now I'm the one who's pissed them off. So they recycle me back into the new platoon that's coming in. Strip me down to my out of my BDUs, put me in the PT gear, and I got to wait for the new platoon. So then now I'm in like a leadership position. Every time they need to teach a lesson or something, I'm the one who they make an example of, like, because I know how to fold my clothes right and hospital corners and all that. Like, they're like, you don't even get a name. They strip you of your identity. You're recruit number 9, and you're not allowed to say the word I. Like, you can't say, I need to go to the bathroom. You go, sir, recruit number 9 requests a head call, sir. Like, it's full on. I don't even know if that's like that in the Marine Corps, but I know that the obstacle course was based on the one from Paris Island, because they would have leathernecks, like the guys in uniform, come to look at the obstacle course. It was, you had to memorize like passages verbatim from the Marine Corps handbook. It was the Marine Corps with none of the clout and none of the weapons. And Marine Corps is only 3 months long. And we had to do the same shit. The Marine Corps physical fitness test. You got to run 3 miles, do a bunch of sit-ups, do a bunch of pull-ups. We had to pass that in order to get out of boot camp into the next program called Transitions, which is helping you acclimate back into society. So things are going pretty good. And I think that they weren't going good. It was still hell on earth, but they had kind of stopped punishing the out of me for lying about that. But I never came clean.
Right.
I stuck to my guns on that, dude. So then one day I get called into a room, and the psychologist, this dude, Corporal Wrath, was the human Donkey Kong. This motherfucker could grab the ropes, like those big ship ropes you got to climb. He could grab one in each hand and climb with no legs. He was a bastard. Like, he was a mean motherfucker, and he could you up. Like, and he'd throw you around like a rag doll. But he's sitting there at the head of the tribunal, and he's like, we can't determine whether he said you said that the night that this alleged incident happened, you were high as a kite. Do you think that there's a possibility that you imagined all this? And I was like, I don't know, sir. And he's like, well, based on our findings, we're going to transfer you to a mental health facility. And I was, no, this is good news. This is good news.
Oh, is it?
And he's looking at me. He's like, now you do know your time's going to start over again, because I'm only supposed to be doing a 6-month bid, and now I've been in for 6 months. So now I'm starting over for 6 months. Like, I'm starting the 6 months over. But I didn't care because, like I said, I just want to be free when I get out. I want to be 18 years old, and I'm thinking they won't put me on probation when I get out. If I'm 18, I can't be on juvenile probation. You can, but that's what I was thinking. I'm not going to be on probation when I get out, and I'll be able to go just get an apartment, get a job, and live the life that I wanted to that everybody didn't agree with,
Right.
So they sent me to this like boys' home inside of a hospital. It's not in a hospital. It's like a wing that's converted from a hospital. And it's the most pussy place. Just like Bird told me. Guess who? And I walk into the recreation room, and guess who's sitting there?
Bird
playing spades with a stack of cookies that he won. Like, and he's like, I told you. Like, glad you finally decided to listen to me.
Right.
Like, this kid I wish you could have him on it. He's just such a character. Like, he was the kid that he would challenge the guards at every, we're both older. We're both like 17. Everybody else is kind of young. He would challenge the guards at every turn. He'd piss them off all the time. And they'd be so mad at him. Like this kid's going to go to prison. He's a sociopath. He has a master's degree now. Like, he was just advanced, and he would fuck with him just because it was fun. Like, he can't figure out how to not drive drunk with an ounce of in his car. But when we were in that place, he took a broken radio from the classroom. You got to get searched when you come from the classroom into the pod.
Right.
He took a broken radio, like a terrestrial radio, snuck it into the dorm. That alone is, a miracle. And then he fixed it and got caught listening to the radio underneath his covers at night. Like, he's a genius. I'm sure you met guys like this who are like complete geniuses. They can make a shower head out of a tube of toothpaste, but they can't figure out how to stay out of prison.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, it was just pussy as fuck. Like, these kids are arguing over who's playing PlayStation next, and I was just in hell on earth boot camp for stealing a soda, dude.
Right.
Like, and there were kids in there that were like other kids in this mental health place. Like, the boot camp was like robbers, kids who took guns to school, carjackers, stabbing, shooting, like the gnarliest of the gnarly. And I'm in there for stealing a 99-cent soda, dude.
Right.
Like, but you know what? It would have been so much worse if I had gotten direct filed and sent to a Florida State prison, because when you're like 17 or whatever, like a juvenile to 24, they send you to these things called JIT camps or gladiator schools.
Right.
And these are, I've heard horrible
story, yeah.
Yeah, the broomsticks go up your butthole and like all kinds of shit. So at least it was just the guards. We were so locked down that of all of my incarcerations, I never had any fights with anybody. I never had to fight butt naked in the showers or any of that shit. But yeah, they sent me to this pussy ass school, and like
how long were you there?
6 months. Yeah, got out 2 months after my 18th birthday.
Jesus, and another 6 months? I thought you were going to tell me they were bullshitting.
I did 6 months and then another 6 months. No, like, I was well behaved. All right, and I buddied up with a guy who was a guard there that also had his church. So they would, he was allowed to take a couple of the kids out of the program to go to church on Sundays. So I was like reading that Bible, quoting shit, like beget whatever, like learning all of it so I could, like the hobo code, like a little religious talk, will get you something to eat. Yeah. So, and that's what it was. That's why I was going, because they had like donated food, like Enemans donuts and shit. Like, so I'll go listen to. I still right now, if somebody's like, I'll give you a box of donuts if you just listen to me preach for a little while. I'd be like, all right, cool. If I didn't have anything to do, I'd do it. Like free donuts, come on. So, and then the other guards were like 24 years old or something. You know what I mean? I'm not that far in age difference from them. So I'd get to stay up late and clean the place so that they didn't have to do it. And then they would they take me in the employee break room and be like, eat whatever you want in that refrigerator. Just don't get sick so we don't get caught.
Right.
So I'm up eating, all the other kids are asleep. I'm eating pizza and ice cream, watching Chappelle's show, or like late, I think there were basketball finals or hockey or some shit going on at the time. Like it was total coast of 6 months. And I didn't have to go live with my dad's. I didn't have to go back to the streets or anything like that. Like, and yeah, I got out 2 months after my 18th birthday and went to Texas for. Oh,
I was like, I got a quick question.
Yeah.
Did these guards? Do you think they knew like, okay, this guy really?
Yeah.
is
Oh, they
like
heard the
crazy?
story. There was actually a guard in JDC when I first got locked up. He looked like Matt. He looked like you, like, but he was like a Queens guy, like talked like Queens,
Right.
you know. And I told him the story. He's listening to me. And he's like, and then he just cracks up laughing. And he's like, you can't even make this shit up. I'm telling you, I need to write a show. He's like, I can make a sitcom about the shit that I hear in this place. Like, and I'm like, thanks, man. Like, there's nothing you can do about it for me. You know, there was also a guard in the boot camp who I told him that story. Or no, he realized that I was like advanced. A lot of these kids are like semi-literate high school dropouts.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're like, they have no education. And I've always educated myself, you know, like I've always just had a passion for knowledge. So I remember the guard was like asking people questions because the guards taught school on the weekends. During the week, it was a teacher, but on the weekends, the drill instructors taught classes. And he asked me, like, how can you tell the difference between a venomous and a non-venomous snake? And I said, like, the venomous snakes have more of, like, rounder eyes, and their heads are more oval-shaped, where you'll get, like, a shovel-shaped head on a venomous snake for the glands and blah, blah, blah. And he listens to me, and he goes, you're not supposed to be here. And I had a sigh of relief, like
Like they're going to send you home.
Yeah,
They're
right?
not.
Like, and he's like, that doesn't mean anything, like,
Yeah.
at all, but I don't think you're supposed to be here. Like, and then what was another thing? I had to write a report on Andrew Jackson, and he was like, this is the best thing that has ever been written in this boot camp. And I was like,
It means nothing.
it means nothing. He's like, don't go getting a big head about it. You know what's another fucked up thing? I'm glad you kind of took me off on this tangent, because I was like, I just jumped into school when I was in boot camp. Like, just drown out the sorrow. Read, educate yourself. And we weren't allowed to read for recreation. We weren't allowed to read, or we weren't allowed to draw, do any art or anything like that. You could only do schoolwork. So I would get the teachers to give me textbooks that I wasn't even taking a class for, just so I had something fun to read. And all the other kids are either retarded, or can I say that? Or they don't care. And like, you know how it is in school, it's not cool to be smart.
Right.
Like, so if the teacher asks a question, these are the coolest kids in Pinellas County. You know how I know? Because they're in boot camp. Like,
Right.
Because that's what happens to cool kids. They go to jail because that's cool, right? So none of them answer the questions. So it'd be like Bueller, and so finally I'd raise my hand and answer the question. Like, and so it would just become. And there was this other kid who like was dumb, but he was just competitive with me. So he would try to beat me to raising his hand, but then he would be completely wrong. And I'm like, you're a dumbass, dude. Like, no wonder why you're in here. Like, but
I was taking college algebra, and we had a kid like that. Like they would say, whatever, 2A plus 3B. You know, they would do that, and he'd be like, oh, 12B, and he'd be like, the teacher would be like, no. And I mean, this happened 6 or 7 times. And there was a guy named Elvin that was in class that we used to be study partners. Listen, we would burst out laughing. I mean, we would just be like, bro, stop. Like, we got to get through this. I mean, we're in college. We're like, we're trying to get through this, man. And so the other kids in the class would start laughing. The other college students would start laughing, like, y'all are so mean to him. And was like, listen, 4 times in a row, just statistically, he should have gotten one of those guesses right. I mean, and he just can't. Like, he doesn't understand. Like, stop doing it. And then, sure enough, 5 minutes later, he'd be like, 12B.
yeah,
No.
I remember the guard that was friendly with me. The kid's name was spelled Gud, but it was pronounced good.
Right.
But the one DI that was friendly with me would like call him Good. He's like, shut up, Good. Like, you're always wrong, Good. Like, I don't know. That guy, Ken Jenkins, I think his name was, he's a sheriff. They're all sheriff's deputies. They worked at the jail. They went through a boot camp. They had to go through a 2-week boot camp to be the drill instructors at boot camp. And now he's like, I look all these people up.
Right.
The ones whose names I remember, you're going to love this one, dude. So I found Ken Jenkins because I was like, man, I'd love to have a beer with this guy. He was funny. He would basically do stand-up on the Saturday classes. I would look forward to it. But he works at the Pinellas County. He's like the lieutenant of the bailiffs at the jail or something. I didn't reach out. I don't want to hang out with a cop. But there was this one female guard who was a smoke show, dude. I mean, it's like I'm talking about furious masturbation at night when she was working. And she was always the one too. When I ended up getting arrested in my early 20s, I'd go to Pinellas County Jail, and she'd already been back. She was in intake, and she recognized me from boot camp, and she goes, "What platoon were you in?" She's like, "I knew you were going to end up here," because this whole time these guys are like, "You're not going to get better. You guys aren't going to get better. We're just making this is job security. We're training the new crop of criminals that are going to be in the county jail when you guys graduate this program." And so she's like shames me when I come into the holding, right? Well, I remembered her name. Rutz was her last name, right? And every once in a while, especially when I come back here, I'm like, maybe I could meet up with this bride. Like, you know what I mean? Like, she was hot. Maybe she's got some kind of fantasy too. I don't know. Like, actually, when I was working at the tattoo shop in Largo, she came in with her mom to get nose piercings, and she still tried to give me like tough talk, like staying out of trouble. Like, well, she got kicked out of the sheriff's office because she got into some domestic thing with her husband or boyfriend, and she was in the middle of the street honking a horn, wasted behind the wheel of her car. So she got, disgraced from the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, and she works for a title company, dude. Because I believe that everyone who works in real estate is a scumbag.
Right.
Like, and I feel the same way about cops. Like, but what was I gonna say? Oh, about school. So there was one teacher who also taught at Gibbs High School in St. Pete, which is a gifted school, and the guards and the teachers started resenting me because, like, I would just get every answer right. I would ace every test. It was a stupid, easy curriculum. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And I remember one guard, De Palma, having it out for me. Like, you think you're so smart? Like, you wouldn't last a minute in the Marine Corps. And I'm like, anybody could be a Marine. And he's like, what the did you just say? Like you were saying, prison is somebody's whole identity. Like, this guy was in the Marine Corps in the 80s, and it's like, it's his whole personality, you know?
He's like,
you think you could be a Marine? And I was like, motherfucker, I'm doing it right now. Like, I am a Marine. Like, what are you talking about? But it was so strange that the people who were teaching me and supposed to be rehabilitating me were starting to resent me like I thought I was some kind of know-it-all. And all I'm doing is participating the way that they expect me to. And I'm not saying anything like, haha, I'm know-it-all. Like,
right.
I'm not correcting anyone, being an actually, I'm not being an asshole. I'm just answering the questions I'm asked. And they're challenged by the fact that I'm bright. And I remember a teacher saying something like, I don't care how smart you think you are, but if I took you to Gibbs High School and put you in a gifted class, you'd be the dumbest kid in there. And I'm like, you could take anybody anywhere, and they'd be the right circumstances. You'd be the dumbest guy. I take you, teacher who teaches at juvenile hall, I take you to Harvard, you're the dumbest motherfucker there. Like, you didn't end up teaching at juvenile hall because you were a great educator.
Yeah, I was going to say, nobody ends up working at the BOP because they're at the top of their field.
Right. You don't end up being I remember emergency room doctor, I'd gotten into a fight, split my whole shit up, and he wouldn't glue it back together. And I was like, you need to irrigate the wound, and you need to glue it back together. And he goes, I've been an emergency room doctor for 27 years. And I'm like, I told my mom about it, and she works in healthcare, and she's like, if he's been in the emergency room for 27 years, he's a piece of shit doctor. Like, he is not good. He hasn't even thought of going into private practice for himself at any point.
Yeah, you never made it out of the emergency room?
Yeah, it was a joke. But I remember the guidance counselor took me aside after I'm starting to get treated like this by the guards and the staff for being good at school.
Right.
Like, I'm supposed to be rehabilitated by you guys, but you're shaming me for being good at school. That's how backwards this situation was. And she takes me into her office, and she's like, look, you need to go to college. You're gifted. You can go to college. You should go to college. If you don't go to college, you are going to work for people who are dumber than you the rest of your life. And even at 17, I only had one job. I was like, that doesn't sound like a bad thing. Like, being smarter than the people who are in control of you, it sounds like a pretty good thing. Like, it sounds like you can get away with a lot of shit.
Like, what do you think? I can manipulate these fuckers?
Yeah, I have always done that. I try to find bosses that are dumb as shit so I can get away with whatever the I want while I'm at work. Like, anyway, I mean, I don't make it a mission, but I'm okay. I know how to deal with that if that does happen. Like,
so you get out of?
So I get out of boot camp and go to Texas again because Mom was still out there. And I skirted. They were going to try to give me 6 months
Boot
after
camp,
or out of the. I get out of the
mental
health.
the psych thing.
But whatever, that was that stretch.
Okay,
that stretch ends. My mom's still in Texas. I figure that I can skip. They do call it aftercare in juvenile,
right?
Where you got to do like 6 months probation, and I probably want to smoke some or whatever, stay out late at night. I'm 18 now. Like, I don't want to be on probation, and I also know that probation is just the judge's way of telling you you're going back to jail. It's just a matter of time. We're going to keep a tab on you, so we know where to come get you. Like, so I tell the guard, like, I can't live with my dads. I got to go to Texas. Like, so just transfer my probation out there. And he's like, it sounds like a lot of work. Like, you probably stay out of trouble. And the whole time I'm being the most well-behaved kid in there because I've just been in boot camp,
Right.
And so he releases me with no aftercare. And it was funny. I even had to stick it to them a little bit because they start giving you home visits to get you used to being out in society. And I was walking out of and so me and my buddy are out driving around on the beach scoring chicks while I'm out. I'm still an inmate in jail, and I'm out on Clearwater Beach finger banging broads.
Right.
Hey, you want to hear some crazy?
Listen, this must be a thing, right?
What?
Have you ever heard that finger banging?
I've heard of that.
I mean, I'd never heard it before.
Jeez, man, no foreplay? Come on.
Never heard. I know what I'm saying. The term. I'd never heard it until Bosiak said it. So I was like, this must be a street kid type of thing. He's like, so I'm trying to finger bang this broad, and I'm thinking, says finger banging, and you just said
yeah, finger bang. Done a lot of I still like finger banging people.
Let's come up with Okay.
Well, the guards used to say in boot camp, they were like, and somebody else is finger banging old Susie Rottencrotch back home. That's what they call your girlfriend, Susie Rottencrotch. Like,
and the guy that's banging her is Jody.
I don't even know. I don't remember that. But yeah, I remember that. I actually caught the guards one night. I woke up in the middle of the night and they were watching Full Metal Jacket. And I was like, I knew I remembered some of these insults. Like, how tall are you, boy? I didn't know they stack shit that tall. Like, steers and all that, whatever the fuck. Like, it was just fucked, man. But I got out and I was doing really well. Like, I just wanted to fly. If somebody told me too that Florida State prisons are basically like that, they're basically boot camps. Mm-hmm. Like, you got to march. The guards talk to you like you're a dog. Like, and I was like, if I have to go, if I up and go to prison and I have to get treated like that by a guard, and then I also have to watch my asshole when I'm showering and shitting, like, I don't want any part of that. Like, I'm not going to get in any kind of trouble. Like, so I go to Texas and I'm doing really well. But it's just, I'm not getting the action I want in Texas. Like, I can't get a chick to me. I just can't have any fun. Like, I don't want to commit crimes, but I want to have fun, you know? And Texas was just boring. So I go back to Florida and,
it's kind of a law and order state.
And it's also just like the deep suburbs. Like, Pinellas County's like, it's small and there's a lot of different shit to do in that small area. There's the beach, there's this, that, the other thing. And as soon as I get back, I'm at a party and, there's a dude hanging out there with this chick who's like, she's like the chick who popped everybody's cherry. And like, she's like the older chick hanging out with a butt. Just a full on unabashed slut. Like, and I mean that in the best way. I love sluts. Like, I wrote a book about, I lived with them. Like Jane Goodall with the apes. I lived with the sluts. And I wrote a book.
What was the name of that one?
It was called Sport.
Oh, it's okay. Well,
I'm just joking.
All right.
It's technically called Swipe Out because they changed the name of the title. Anyway.
I love that we've done nothing but talk about books that aren't published.
Yeah,
like, we'll talk about helping you at all.
We'll talk about. I mean, they know how to write books, like,
right?
I'm sure if that one intrigues them, then they'll check out some of my other ones. Like, so anyway, I get out, meet this dude at a party who's banging the neighborhood floozy, and there's this dude Ralph. He's dead now, and he was a body piercer at Atomic Tattoos, and in Largo where I grew up. And I knew about the place. I used to hang out in the parking lot and. Or actually, used to hang out next door to it because it's where a railroad track ends. Like, there's a paver company over there, and they pull up rail cars to put the pavers in, or the supplies to make the pavers. So I would always be out there painting trains, writing graffiti and stuff. And I'd run into a couple. I already knew some of the people like very vaguely, but then this guy's like, he's a body piercer, but he's learning how to tattoo. So he's like, hey, why don't you come down to the shop and get free tattoos? Because I'm learning. And if I f them up or whatever, I'll fix them, you know, like, but you get to be my crash test dummy. And I was working at Suntasia, which was a telemarketing place, which was a full on scam. It was one of those like coupon books that they send to old people, and it's like cancel the subscription within this amount of time,
right?
And we won't sign you up for the subscription to it or the recurring payment. But then they don't even mail the thing out until it's past the contractual date of cancellation. So they're just ripping off old people. And I'm hanging out. I'm just kind of the hang around guy at the shop for a while, and then they brought me in as an apprentice, and worked there for a while. And one day I'm hanging out. And it was like kind of the best environment because these dudes are like kind of half criminals already, but they're squared away. You know, like they're not out doing dumb crimes.
Right.
Like they're not driving around with a fucking ounce of in their car when they've had beers in their system or something. You know, like they are living this adult lifestyle that I wanted to live as a teenager, and they're doing it without getting themselves in trouble. So they were really good role models for me in a way because I mean, you know, they're not church going good Christian people, but they're like navigating dereliction and depravity with dignity. You know what I mean? And so one day we're hanging out at the shop, and I'm talking about skateboarding, and the owner dude is like, dude, you really love skateboarding. Like, I'm talking about it. I know all these nerding out on different stuff. And he's like, you should think about maybe getting a job. I don't know if like working in a tattoo shop is like for you, man. Like, you're still young. You need to be out there skating, and like maybe you should get a job in skateboarding. And he knew the guy who owned Skate Park at Tampa over on Columbus, in East Tampa. And yeah, it didn't take long of like a vetting process to go work there. And so I got to jump into a couple of different jobs where I got to kind of influence my area. You know what I mean? Like I created they have a big pro-am contest at Skate Park at Tampa that brings a lot of people in. So I set up an event. I brought the tattoo shop to the skate park, and they still now, 10-something years later, give out free tattoos to the people who are at the contest. So it's like I got to see how I went from within a year or so of being out of juvenile hall, I'm like making dreams come true. You know what I mean? Like I'm leading. It's an alternative lifestyle, but I'm leading a positive lifestyle, making a positive impact on my community. We had a big skateboard contest or a protest on June 21st is National Go Skateboard Day, and so we decided to do some renegade contests out in the street. Just go to a street spot and have a contest. It's totally illegal. Like, and we skated through downtown Tampa, 150 kids. It's kind of like a flash mob. It's not necessarily a great thing to be part of because it's illegal. But again, it was like me
to skateboard.
150 kids stopping traffic as like kind of like this protest for skateboarding because it was still illegal at the time.
Skateboarding's illegal?
You can get a ticket, or you could. I don't know about anymore, but you could get a ticket and go to jail. Even in San Francisco, when I lived there in the late 2000s, early teens, you could get a ticket and the charge was skateboarding. It was against. That's why they had all those shirts that said skateboarding is not a crime, because it was a crime in some places. Like, so anyway, I'm saying I'm not living like what my parents would say is like this is what we expected of you. You know, my dad always kind of treated me like, if you're not going to be the son that I want, then I'm just going to torture you and make your life living hell. So it's like, and he was, he told me recently that like, he's like, I was just afraid of you getting caught up in the system and becoming one of those guys who becomes a lifer. Not necessarily getting sentenced to life, but just a jailbird in and out, who loses track of his dreams. And it's like, within a year and a half, I'm already making impacts in my community, pursuing my dreams, right? So then it ends up not working out at the skate park, and this is where I revert back to my youth. And like the day that I got fired from the skate park, a buddy of mine happened to hit me up, and he's like, oh, you got to come out to San Francisco and trim some.
Right.
And you get $200 a pound. You trim a pound of weed, you get $200. And I started doing the math on it, and I was like, I only need to sell like this many pounds a year in order to have like a minimum wage salary. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
what I always really wanted to do was find a way to work the least amount of hours so that I could have my free time to do art, skateboard, surf, enjoy my life. I did not want to work 40 hours a week in an office and not have any time to do anything creative.
Right.
You know? And that's kind of why I worked at the telemarketing place, because if I hit quota by like noon and it didn't look like I was going to get above quota and make the company more money, they would just send me home for the day and still pay me for the full 6 or 8 hours, whatever the shift was. So
Right.
it was like I was getting paid to skate while I was out. I'd go straight to the park and skate. And I've dated a bunch of like bartenders and waitresses or servers, excuse me, but they always make more. I've always had girlfriends who make more money than me, so I don't know about this wage gap. I don't know if it maybe like a maybe like a myth. You know,
it is a myth. If you actually do the numbers, it's basically even. But what's one of those things that if you say it, people want to cancel you,
attack you
because they want to go with this skewed statistic that's been pushed.
Dude, no one is going to pay me. What were you saying? $15,000, $30,000 a month to take a picture of their beaver and put it on the internet? Nobody wants to see my balls.
No,
nobody wants to see them.
No.
Like, and they don't want to see pictures. They're not going to pay to see pictures of them.
I'd have a whole studio set up for it if that was the case, right? Like, I mean,
100%. I'd have a
wouldn't do
ring
that?
light. Like, I'd have 2 ring lights, one for each ball.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, definitely. I'd have a zoom lens, the whole thing. I'd get in there.
yeah. So we got to stay on topic, dude. ADHD, man. This is the ADHD radio hour. It doesn't need to be call letters, but
Escorting for guys, how easy is that?
I would love to.
You know, like I need like a couple of pills and I'm good to go. Let's do this.
I need some
You know,
pills.
I can be charming.
Yeah.
I look good in a suit.
You know what it is be destitute. Because I've been broke and homeless at different times, and women they'll give you a place to stay, but then you're kind of like their dog for 48 hours or something, like for their weekend, you know? Like, and that's kind of being a male prostitute. You're just not walking away with any money afterwards. Like, it's a privilege to get laid and have somewhere to sleep for the night. Like, I ran that for a while.
All right. I was going to say, to me, I'm afraid they'd come in, they'd be like, okay, so I have you for the whole day. Yes. And they'd have me putting up curtain rods and changing fans out.
No,
And I'd be like,
boyfriend I'm a rental, dude.
odds and ends.
I'm cool with being a rental. I'll put up some curtains. Like, if you're going to let me stay. There was a period of time where I didn't have anywhere to stay in San Francisco. It was getting too expensive. And a buddy of mine who was fronting me drugs and was like, you're staying at a different chick's house every night anyway. Like, or
Are these fatties or
no, these are dimes, dude.
Oh,
these
okay.
are Mission District
Females?
females.
Okay.
Yeah, human, legitimate, born females. Like, I was probably, I don't know,
This must
40
have been a
pounds
while-
lighter.
this was a while- this might have been a
Jawline
while ago, right?
Yeah, it was about 10 years ago.
Okay.
So I was a little trim. I was a little thinner. I had a better jawline, better haircut, you know. But yeah, I was like, all you need is 7 phone numbers, 1 day a week. It's kind of gross, but I ran it for a while,
Yeah,
and it got me a book deal.
Got to put in the time.
Yeah, it got me a book deal. Like,
Nice.
So,
What was that book?
well, it was originally supposed to be called Sport,
Right.
but the investors
publisher,
didn't like
no
that.
good?
See, it wasn't a publisher that gave me the deal. These guys were gonna basically finance my research. They give me like a big upfront payment so I can
That's the way to do
I can
it.
sustain myself and do it full
So
time.
you're going to give me $100,000 to a bunch of random chicks for a
just
year.
do Tinder because they didn't. I mean, what had happened was I was. How does this? This starts with like I was working at Yellow Cab in San Francisco, right? And I was dispatching taxis at night, graveyard shift. And I was living in a little like sunroom out in Ocean Beach. I was hurt. I couldn't skateboard anymore, so I was trying to get back into surfing. And there's a surf spot out there. So I'm staying in this room. I'm making $320 a week. That's it. I'm living in the most expensive city in the country.
Right.
But I'm not drinking, not smoking. Smoking like the $5 pack of cigarettes or whatever. Like my expenses are very low. I think I was getting food stamps too. Like didn't need a lot of money. Rent's maybe $500 a month, but I'm living in like pretty much a closet.
Right.
Know? And the girl I was dating, she had a lot of money, so she was picking up the tab a lot. Like we went out to dinner, she would just be like, tip the waitress. You know,
Right.
she'd pay for dinner. But so I was making it work. But what ended up happening? Oh, so we'd be out, you know, in North Beach or whatever, and we'd need to get back to the mission and not want to ride on the bus, so we take an Uber. This is like when the ride shares are starting. So we get an Uber, and I'm going to work dispatching taxis, and I can't get these assholes cab drivers to pick up somebody and get them to the airport on time. And I'm like, this ship is sinking, dude. Like they're not going to last. And their gate was, at the time, the gate fee to drive a cab out of the yard was $200 a day. The last time I was out there and talked to somebody in the industry, it was like $80 a day because nobody wants to drive cabs anymore.
Right.
Nobody even wants to take them. So
I don't even see cabs anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's some places.
Well, I'm saying in Tampa, like I don't even see cabs.
So I had done some work in focus groups, market research, right? But basically, like, got these people's attention because I figured out a way to scam the focus group by either liking or disliking the product. If they're like, we're doing a focus group on lamps today, just tell us how you feel about lamps for your preliminary email. And I'd be like, I hate lamps. It's all about, light fixtures. Or I love lamps, and say why I love lamps. Like, I would just try. Sometimes I'd send different opinions to the market research people under different names because they're paying cash. They don't need your real information. But then they've noticed, like, this guy, he's bullshitting us. Like, he's ended up in every focus group so he can get $200.
Right.
And then they started kind of bringing me in as like a professional focus grouper because I got the gift of gab and I have an opinion about everything, good or bad. I can tell you what I think about it and why I think that way. Like, and I was out drinking with some of the buddies one night, and they're like, we're doing a thing. I don't think I can say which rideshare company it was, but they were doing a market research thing for one of the rideshares. And they're like, would you be interested in coming in and just talking with them, conference room style, just sit, just like we're doing right now. We'll even crack some beers in the conference room and just talk to these people. And I was like, yeah.
How's this going? How is this? Is this headed towards sport?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
So
I'm dying to know the tie-in.
the whole time I'm sport in my personal life, but no.
I've been doing research
it's a
forever.
Verb. So anyway, I go in and give them my little talk, whatever. I got them all cracking up. We're drinking beers. We're having a good time. And when they go to pay me, the focus group guys, they always slide an envelope at you, mob style. And there's a check in there that is my year's salary at Yellow Cab. So $320 a week times 52 weeks, And so it's like more money I think I'd ever had at one time, probably in my life. And I was like, this is awesome. They brought me back in for another session. It was 2 years salary.
Okay.
And the same check. So I'm financially free now. So now the girlfriend who feels like she owns me, like I'm her dog, because I'm financially dependent on her for pretty much everything.
Get rid of her.
100% moved to New York. Like, I mean, she was already. It's not like that. It's not like I was just using her. It
doesn't sound like that at all.
She was a bad person, and I was poor. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, she was really hot. She had some redeeming qualities, but she treated me like garbage.
The redeeming quality of she pays for everything.
And no, it's not just that. It's not as simple as that. I'm a very complex individual, dude. Okay, like I have a heart. I like the girl. She's intelligent. She's very good looking.
You ever heard that? I have the heart of a small child. I have it in a jar behind my desk.
That's a good one. So yeah, I split to New York, and actually, a buddy of mine caught a graffiti case, and he had to do 6 months in Rikers. So he had this tenement room in Chinatown that he had since like before 9/11. So he's like, "You're back out. You're on the East Coast. You need a place to stay. Stay in my room while I'm in jail." And so I do that for about a year.
So hold down the spot.
My mom's staying in Jersey, so I'm spending. And at the time, I quit drinking, mostly just for finances. I was like, I got a good amount of money, and if I go wild with this money, I'm not gonna have anything.
Right.
Like, I need to figure out something to do with this money so that I can. By this time, I'm 28 years old, so I've fucked money off, and so I know I needed to do something with it. I just didn't know what it was gonna be yet, and so DJing and hanging out in the city during the week, going to the Jersey to help my mom with her house, and working at a bar on the weekends. And I kind of never really got anything going on. Once he got out of jail, I was just doing sublets around Brooklyn. I had a lot of DJ gigs, but they don't really pay very much. Like, it's commission based. You only get 10% of what the bar brings in, and you're DJing on a Wednesday night. You could make $60, like, right. Or you could make $200. It does, just depends what they make. So when the crazy girlfriend hits me up, and I think she came out to visit or something, and we're talking about maybe getting back together. I tend to forget physical pain and emotional pain. Mm-hmm. I think it's because I grew up in like a lot of trauma like abusive household and abuse out on the streets and stuff. Like, I think once you're traumatized at a young age, you can kind of sit in a shitty diaper. Like, you don't. So like even physical pain, I forget what a tattoo feels like until I get a new one.
Right.
Like, so I kind of let her talk me into going back to San Francisco. And a friend of mine was managing a bar, and he's like, dude, if you're coming back, work here, be a bar back. You've been doing it in Jersey, like, do it here. So within 3 months, I quit the abusive bar back job, and the girlfriend was throwing my shit out into the middle of Cesar Chavez Street. So my buddy Sprinkles, Bobby Sprinkles, best drug dealer known to mankind. That woman got
Sprinkles.
His name, yeah, because he would give you samples. He'd call him John Sample too. Like if he had some new Molly or something, he'd be like, "Here, test that out.
First one's free."
Sprinkles,
Right.
But, she actually, that same chick got really mad at me. She saw a text message in my phone from Sprinkles, and she knows I DJ on a street that's got a bunch of strip clubs, and she's like, "You really, a stripper named Sprinkles?" Like, and I'm like, "No, it's fine. I'll introduce you to him." Like, he's this dude was living on a boat. This guy's like a legend, dude. He was living on a crab boat, for free in Fisherman's Wharf, and I guess like, with a boat title, you can transfer the title from one vessel to another, but you have to sink that vessel. So they were like waiting to do that. And so his job was to stay on the boat and run the bilge so it didn't sink into the bay before they could get a new boat to transfer the title. I don't know why I went off on that little tangent. But anyway, so she throws me out. He's fronting me pounds of and Molly here and there and liquid, all kinds of shit. And he was like, dude, you're staying either at a friend's house every night of the week or with a different chick. Like, I'll front you whatever you need to make money. Do you want to have a bunch of money, or do you want to like spend that consulting money? Do you want to spend that on getting set up at an apartment in San Francisco that in 5 years you're not going to be able to afford anyway? Right. So I was like, yeah, I guess you got a good point. So I spent a year in San Francisco just couch surfing, playing Tinder in the morning to see if something meet a nice lady at night, or just go hang out with one of my buddies. Like,
I thought you were saying he was going to front you a bunch of stuff to sell.
Yeah, but I'm not.
But
I'm just selling drugs all day and selling in Molly and not nowhere to live though. I got it all in a backpack or stashed at friends' houses, and yeah, I was just like, I'm going to stay in San Francisco. So I had enough money to leave and go move somewhere. I had enough money in the bank to do something. I just didn't know what I was going to do, and I didn't want to leave San Francisco, and I was having a good time.
Right.
So I hadn't seen the market research guys in a while, I think maybe about a year, and I released an album and a book, and they were like, we want to sponsor this. Like, we will invest. They're they have friends who are venture capitalists in Silicon Valley, and they were just starting to get into, I think you've talked about it on your show, how certain venture capitalist groups are working with people like Mark Wahlberg and just different actors. They didn't really understand. They want to get into entertainment, but they don't understand how the business works. Like, and these are the kind of people who watch Jeff Bezos work for years and years and years developing Amazon, and then it turns in. They're used to, in tech, working on something, nose to the grindstone for years and years before it ever pays off, and they see how big the payoffs can be in entertainment. So I think they made a switch at some point to like kind of working with people who are already established in the entertainment industry. But my deal was kind of like, we'll develop our own talent. They bought a production company, and then they started buying stuff from me that could add valuation. Because that's another thing these tech guys do. These venture capitalist dudes is they'll buy businesses, get it to a point where it's got a high dollar value, and then sell it. Mm-hmm. So they think worst case scenario, we'll buy this production company that's just doing car commercials and stuff right now, and we'll acquire scripts that we can shop around, books that can get optioned, and even if we don't sell anything, at some point, if we want to get out of this is an asset that the company has. It's like if you owned a brewery and you got all the taps and the big whatever silos. I don't know what they put beer in, but anyway, I don't know. So they offer me a nice chunk of change to write a book about basically what I'd been doing for the last year, and that's doing Tinder, like just writing Tinder stories, weird, just what it's like to be successful at Tinder, because a lot of guys are just hopeful. I don't know what it is. I don't know why I don't know if it was the photos I took or if it was just I was persistent or whatever, but I was cleaning up. And they saw that. Like, I was doing a record release, and I had like probably 4 or 5 girls who I had all met from Tinder. I'd met all of them from Tinder, and they all were record collectors, and I had them like round robin DJing, and they're like, "What's going on? You have like you're like Count Dracula over here. You don't even had a place to live in a year, and you got 4 different chicks who are all here that know about each other, and they're all playing records at your record release. Like, we want to put some money into this so that you don't have to live on the street, basically." Because there were times when I didn't have places to go at night, and I would either stay out all night writing graffiti and then sleep in the park in the daytime. You're just a hipster when you sleep in the park in the daytime. If you sleep in the park at nighttime, you're a bum.
You're homeless.
Yeah. Or I'd go to, I call it, my homies call me Millhouse. It's like street nickname, and because I'm a nerd. And so I'd call it staying at Bart's house, and I would go to Bart, Bay Area Rapid Transit, and buy a ticket to go one stop, and then find the car where all the other bums are sleeping, and just pull my beanie over my head and get a nap in. And even if you wake up down in Daly City or something like that, you just go to the attendant and tell him like, "Hey, I fell asleep on the train. Look at me, I'm a normal guy. I'm not a homeless."
Right.
And they'll just let you back on the train and let you go back into the city. So, yeah. Where are we going with that?
They gave you some money to do this.
Seed money to do it, and then
did you write the book?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Wrote the book, sending them pages the whole time, and then about 2 years into it, the Me Too movement happens.
Right.
Now, I'm not doing anything wrong, dude. But probably questionable of character, but illegal, scummy. I'm not, coercing. I'm not doing anything wrong, even by the letter of the Me Too law, whatever it is. Like,
law. Law.
It's a law, dude.
They're afraid.
There's woke law. Okay,
so they're afraid. They're afraid
to be associated with a book like this. But I had gotten really lucky because I talked to my mom about signing a contract. Never signed a contract before.
Okay.
And she negotiated. She was like, if these people decide not to go through with this, she's like, the 2 things that you got to do if it's going to go through is you got to get some kind of back end, whether even if it's merchandise or if it gets optioned for a movie or they mass produce the book, you got to get some kind of royalty on top of it. It can't just be this money that you're getting. This is seed money. This is, And she also said if they're not going to go through with it, then you have to get compensated for the period of time that you've spent working on this. And I think they call it a fee.
Right. So if they're not going to publish the book and you're not going to be able to access your back end money, then you have to pay me a fee, for not going through with the project.
Bingo.
Okay.
But they got clever with the contract, whatever, where they're like, you got to turn a book in at the end of 5 years. And it's got to be the book we expected to get.
Right.
Or we're not going to pay the
So they can always say this isn't what we wanted and try and get out of it.
They're checking pages the whole time.
Okay, so that's a hard sell for them to say it's not what we expect. At the very least, you've got a lawsuit.
Yeah. Right. So, but they're also trying to wait to pay me that fee until the 5 years is up and see if I up between now and then so they can get out of paying it. So I finished the book.
And
I continued to do. Around the same time, a friend of mine had died, and he was kind of a locally famous dude in Brooklyn, and it literally this all happened at the same time. My book gets canceled. My homie dies. We were actually going to work on a Vice show together, and so I literally ended up using Tinder as therapy. I would go out on Tinder dates and just talk about, be like, that bicycle messenger who got beat to death? That was my homie. They're like, oh, we knew him. Or I read about it in the paper. And I'm like, and then every night would pretty much be a Tinder date, me talking about this to a different woman. I'm not proud of it. It's a little embarrassing, but I didn't have anybody else to talk to about it.
Right.
And nobody really gave a fuck, too. That kind of really fucked me up. It was like a high profile, and nobody gave a fuck. There were people there who saw it happen. Right. And baristas, bartenders, they don't live by the G code.
Right.
I don't care if you're afraid. I don't care if you're afraid of the people who them. They might kill you if that's what you're thinking, right? But don't go saying we don't talk to police or we're in the G code. You didn't sign that contract.
Yeah.
It's for G. The G stands for gangster, okay? Not granola or whatever the you're selling.
Yeah. You're a barista.
Yeah. But everybody listens to too much hip hop. We don't talk to police. Who's we? Because I'm just seeing you.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. So, and actually, Curtis Valentine, rest in peace. But I wasn't going to do anything as far as writing. I was pissed about that. I'm waiting for my check to come. I signed the deal on March 11th, 2015. And so March 11th, 2020 is when my check was supposed to come in. And that's the day the world shut down.
Right.
Right. So then I was like, I had done a little bit of real estate with that consulting money. I invested in a property in Asbury Park. It was a real long shot. It was where I was bar backing at the time. And the Jersey guys are like, yeah, this is going to be the next Williamsburg. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that. It's like, this is going to be the next, this is going to be the spot. It's up and coming.
Right.
Like, okay, whatever. But I found a property for like under $20,000, dude.
Okay.
Like, so bought it and just kind of forgot about it. And then that ended up, it really did blow up. Like all the double income, I think it's like got a big gay community now or something. Double income, no kids. They call them dinks.
Yeah.
And Asbury Park literally was like kind of a bummy little beach town on one side of the one side of the tracks, New Jersey Transit. It's a little beach town, nothing fancy, right? Bradley Beach and I think Ocean Grove are right there, and they're really nice, old Victorians, like beautiful. But Asbury Park wasn't so nice. The other side of the tracks was a nightmare, dude. Like it went through race riots in the 70s or something that this side never recovered from. And then now a bunch of people from the city have like their apartments in the city, and then they have a home that they own or lease down in Asbury Park. So I ended up making out pretty good on that deal, just selling the land because it had a dilapidated house on it. I was spending part of my summer like tearing it up until I found out it had asbestos in it. And I'm out there in a tank top with no mask on, just beating the shit out of this old house with a sledgehammer. Am I getting off topic? I forget what we were talking about.
Did you ever get the check?
Oh yeah, I got the check.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You said the world shut down. You never said your check came.
Yeah, no, I got the check, and then I got all that unemployment money too. So I was using that was just beer money, and then I took the check from the fee and started investing in real estate.
So what about the book?
Yeah,
What happened to the book?
It's in limbo. They own it. It's theirs. I don't know what the f- they're gonna do with it. Like,
Do you remember-
They could take it and switch it around and make it about a woman or something. You know what I mean? Like they could take the skeleton of it and the experiences that I went. Dude, I had some wild shit happen. Like,
Okay.
no, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask you.
Forget 'em. Like,
I was just going to ask you about like. Do you remember the book? I hope they serve beer in hell.
everybody compares my shit to that guy, and I've never read it. I've seen the video. I've
Well,
seen
that
the movie.
guy's book was released and successful, so I'm not really comparing it to your book.
That's a good point, though. But he was like the first guy of the kind. Like after that, there
Do
was
you know
a
what that
big.
is?
No.
After
Oh my
that, there was a
God, bro.
big memoir craze after that. Like,
So this is a guy who was, and I'm probably going to butcher this, but he was a law student at Tulane.
I thought it was Chico.
Like I said, I'm probably going to
Okay, all right,
butcher it.
sorry,
I
my
think
bad.
it was Tulane. Whatever. He was a law student. So he's a 6 foot tall, blonde hair, blue eyed, clean cut looking law student who goes into bars at night where girls are there, looking to meet a guy, and he gets to open up. I'm a second year, your second year law student, you're about to be a lawyer. I'm a 6 foot tall, blonde hair, blue eyed. It looks like you. He's you, only he's a law student, and I'm about to graduate. These chicks are doing everything but falling on their back with their legs in the air. I mean, they are just like holy shit. I just hit the jackpot. He chats them up for 20, 30 minutes. Boom, right back to his place and having sex with them.
It was pretty much exactly like that, except the exact opposite, where I was like broke. Well, they thought I was broke, but I
Right.
didn't have anywhere to live, and they're like, "Oh, let me save you. I'll give you." But then they feel like they have control over you. We were talking
Right.
about this earlier. Like, it's like you're their dog for the night or the weekend.
And it
like,
is the opposite because now he treats these women like dogs.
dog shit. And
He's
I worshipped women.
Right.
I just do.
He's
Like,
them 2 or 3 times. He's just not physically abusive, but I mean, he's just degrading.
Dogging 'em
and the
out.
more degrading he is to them, the more they keep coming back for more. And he's just, I mean, he's slaughtering at least 1 chick, sometimes 2 chicks. He's got insane stories. He's,
I was
fucking
doing
them.
in New York. I was doing 2 sometimes. I call them double headers or sometimes triple headers. Like,
But he ends up. The book is huge, by the
Yeah.
way. So he writes
It
the book.
blew the fuck up.
It blows
Yeah.
up. He options it.
Makes a
There's a movie. It's over the top insanity. And you know what that guy ends up doing? He ends up graduating. I think he graduates. He's extremely successful. He ends up marrying a chick, and now he and this girl run a consulting firm where they counsel men or married couples because he gets with this chick and she changes his entire perspective of how he feels about women. So it's a total kind of turnaround story. And although he's definitely kind of a
so he
shiesty,
says.
yeah, I was gonna say he's a
Because it's also
shiesty
like
guy, so you
it's
don't
also
really
drinking
know.
and bad behavior and like he shit all over the hotel somewhere or something.
Some of the stories are just so over the top.
Yeah.
It's almost like, come on, nobody behaves like this, bro.
Yeah.
Like this is too much.
It's funny too because part of my first book,
definitely.
Future Drugs, is like making fun of that like memoir phase that like because then after that there were just a ton. Everybody wanted to cash in on that.
Everybody's
like
coming out with
wild
a fucking
memoirs. Like
yeah.
there's that book Cherry. I never read it, but I heard about it. People. I tell people about my book or they read it and they're like, "Oh, you should read this," and I'm like, "Nah, I'm good." If I'm already writing something like that, I'm not going to read it. I don't want it to pollute what I'm doing. But so a friend of mine, Lexi, was like, "You should just make certain things in your book way more extreme than they were." Like I went out into I was in San Francisco. I go into the alley to smoke next to the bar, and I didn't know that it was the alley where they have the needle exchange. They give out free needles to the junkies, and so I'm sitting on a windowsill smoking, and I look up and there's cops right there, and so I pull down my pipe, and they immediately, pull up on me, and they're like, "What are you doing out here?" And I was like, "I came out to send a text message," and they're like, "You came out of the bar to send a text message?" And I was like, "I'm smoking, all right." And they're like, "You're over here nervous about some, right?" And they're like, "All right, if all you got is on you, then we'll issue you an advisory and send you on your way." And I was like, "All right, well, is that like a notice to appear or something?" And they're like, "No, we just have to advise you it's bad for your health and you should stop smoking it."
Oh my God, San Francisco.
Yeah, and they searched
Are
me.
you stopping people that are smoking cigarettes?
Right?
But that's
Because it really is that
smoking
common.
a Marlboro walking
Yeah.
down the street. He's okay, but the guy smoking, we have to advise
They
you.
actually will do that in Dolores Park. If you're smoking a cigarette, the park ranger will come up and tell you put the cigarette out. But if you're smoking a joint, they'll let it fly.
That's fucking this country's
So,
doomed.
So whatever, they go, "All right, you don't got anything but on you." He puts the back in my pocket.
Right.
Just bought a brand new 8. Puts it back. He's like, "How much did you pay for this?" And I was like, $40. He's like, "All right, here, put it in my pocket."
Hand you a card, go to my buddy. He's way better.
Yeah, right. I believe it. San Francisco it gets down like that. But so then the rest of the night, I go into the bar. I'm at the same place, and every time I finish a beer, I go into the bathroom and poke holes in the beer can and smoke in the bathroom, so that I don't go out in the alley anymore and get harassed by these cops until the bartender figures out what I'm doing and kicks me out of the bar. So my friend Lexi was like, we were making fun of how people think that their story is more like exciting or enticing than it really is. Like, oh, you smoked once and you DJ'd and found out you were bisexual. Like, so she's like, replace all that weed that you were smoking with, not me, but it's like, it's not that interesting of a story. But when there was that memoir craze, everybody's writing one thing and like, "Oh, I'm so wild. I have such crazy stories." And she's like, "You should just say it was you were smoking in the bathroom." Just like, she's like, go through the book, and every time you're like talking about smoking a joint, change it to crack. Like, just kind of as like the book is like a satire on memoirs. Like,
Right.
So
What are you doing now?
like book wise?
Yeah.
Well, after the book deal got pulled out from under me, I was like not going to do anything. I had my first book, Future Drugs, done.
Right.
My idea was like, since they are going to own Swipe Out, the Tinder book,
Yeah.
that I'll have at the same time another book come out that I own 100% of. So like if this one's getting attention and people are like, interested in how I write, what I write, and they're looking for another book, I can get 100% of the sales of that one. And I wasn't going to do anything with it. And I think I mentioned earlier my friend Curtis Valentine, who got in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I never knew his middle name.
Okay.
And so some friends of mine in like 2022 tell me to come visit. They're friends of Curtis, right? And I'm chilling at their house, and they have one of the guys worked at the liquor store that Curtis was a bicycle messenger for. He delivered wine. And he took out of Curtis's file his birth certificate and had it pinned up on his wall at the house. And his middle name was Ellis. I never knew that. We've been friends for 10, 15 years. Like, I never knew his middle name was Ellis. So I was like, I think I have to publish his book. Like, so I did. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. And then once I held a copy of the book in my hand, I just kept going. Like, so most everything else that's on this table right now is written after 2022 when that book came out.
Okay.
Is that answering your question? You look confused.
Well, I'm saying it, so you went with the name.
Yeah, I mean, for the YouTube, like if I'm talking just to you.
No,
like,
I'm just wondering why you mentioned the
because
Ellis.
because that's the pen name, Ellis Jones, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, maybe I need to do something else right under my own name,
Right.
You know, because I was like, that's kind of corny, you know, like maybe people look at it. Ellis and Jones is an intersection in San Francisco, so I didn't really want people to think I'm trying to associate myself with the city,
Right.
I'm trying, like, it's like Mark Twain's name isn't Mark Twain. It's Samuel Clements. Jack London is from Oakland. You know, it's cool to have a pen name. So one day I went to the hospital. I broke my arm in a fight, broke my wrist in a fight, and went to the hospital and told them my name was Ellis Jones, and they bought it. And until there was an older black lady who was checking me out. She's like the lady who makes sure you're going to pay your bill.
Yeah.
And she's behind the curtain, and I just see her feet, and she's like, "What are you doing for lunch, girl?" It's like, "Oh, well, I just got to check this one client out, Ellis Jones." And she goes, "Ellis Jones," and throws the curtain open, and she goes, "Your name is Ellis Jones?" And I was like, "Yep." And so whatever. It was like a funny joke when I went back to the bar the next day with the bracelet that said Ellis Jones from the hospital. So I was just like thinking, oh, I'm going to rewrite Future Drugs or something. And so maybe you don't want to put this in because it's all about the pen name.
Yeah, well,
right? But
Wait, that's what I was saying. I thought, did you want to mention the pen name?
I don't know. It's your podcast, bro. I'm just telling stories.
I think it's kind of interesting that you.
Because you were saying put it at the end anyway. Like if we do break the fourth wall, like put it at the end.
I mean, we can put
but
it
just
in there.
bill it as Ellis Jones. I like that. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's where the name came from. It was like my fake. They have cops in San Francisco that aren't real cops. They ride around on the bus, and they're like a private security force, but they look and act like cops.
Right.
And they write you tickets for not paying the ticket, like, or paying your fare to get on. But it's not a criminal offense. It goes against your like credit score or something.
Right.
Like, so I would just tell them Ellis Jones all the time.
Right.
But I wasn't going to do it because I thought maybe it's kind of corny having a pen name, and I didn't want people to think I hate people who move to places like New York and San Francisco, and they don't do anything to contribute to the culture. They just think that they're valuable because they live in this kind of cool place, you know? So I didn't want anybody to be like, oh, you're just trying to associate yourself with somewhere cooler than where you grew up, right? I don't know if that makes sense. But once I saw that Curtis's middle name was Ellis, I was like, I think I should put it out. And yeah, it just kind of broke the seal. I was thinking maybe I'm not going to write books at all. And now I'm, putting one out every couple of months. So, yeah.
Well, are you doing audio?
I was thinking about it, but like, I really want people to buy them. So if I read the books to them, I don't think I could.
They'd have to pay for the
Audible? Yeah, no, because I couldn't do.
I make as much on Audible.
You got to be shitting me.
As I do selling regular
But
books,
okay, listen, this is the thing is I could not do it and not be an asshole to whoever's listening, because I would be like, okay, I'm reading this, and then like I would probably stop in the middle and be like, okay, you baby, like here, let me hold your hand. It would probably end up being like a comedy podcast and the audiobook.
Well, I hear you, but people like long distance truckers, like a ton of people
so you can actually charge for.
Are you serious?
I don't know,
yeah,
dude.
bro.
I write books. I don't.
No,
write,
you
I don't do.
You already have all the equipment. Why wouldn't you do it?
I do have the equipment.
First of all, they're cheaper. Secondly, people pay
Do you get more of a royalty for them? Like, can you structure how much of a?
Yeah, you can structure. Absolutely, you can. And people will join Audible.
I'm doing this shit.
Yeah,
bro.
what are you talking about? Like,
I don't know.
Long distance truckers, guys that drive.
I wrote most of Future Drugs on a typewriter.
Guys that
I can tell you
drive.
personally, I'm probably never going to read another hard copy book, but I will a book.
No,
really?
No.
So I'm leaving money on the table.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You know how many people will say, "Hey, bro, I was going to buy your book, but I see you don't have it on Audible." That's why I started doing. They're like, "Bro, I don't
do Kindle too." Because somebody told me to do that, and I'm like, I want people to hold the book and read it. Like,
right, I understand, but but you already have a Kindle. So if you have this book, you can just click a button on Amazon, and it creates the Kindle for you. Like it's a couple more clicks. Why?
I don't, because I'm like old school. I like tactile. I still do shows with my music and sell cassette tapes. Like, I know it's dumb. I'm not.
Right.
Look, I want to make art. I don't want to make content.
I'm not a huge fan of. I wasn't a huge fan of TikTok either until they started cutting us checks.
Really?
And then it was now. Listen, prior to us becoming monetized on TikTok, so I was like, yeah.
Do I get a residual?
I was immediately.
If you guys use my.
No, you don't get nothing. So I used to be the guy to be like, that Chinese company, shut that shit down. Then they started cutting us checks, and I'm like, hey, now wait a minute. Now No, that's just content.
what?
That's freedom of speech.
Yeah.
What do you know?
I'll give it a shot.
Look,
I guess.
I'm a sellout like that.
Yeah,
and I'm telling you, Audible, you can make as much
I
on
think I'm
Audible, maybe
lazy
more.
to some degree too.
I don't get that at all. I think, yeah, I think you should do that because what happens is people, if they like one of your books, you can advertise the shit out of one book, and the other one
I don't know why
selling.
I'm not putting it together. My mom is like a major reader. She's read more books than definitely anyone in this room, and like anyone that I know. Like, I mean, for real, like. And we've both been locked up. Like I know you read a lot when you were in there.
Bro, for like 3 years, I was reading at least 1 or 2 books every single day for like at least 3 or 4 years.
She
while I was
probably
locked
got
up.
you still. I'm telling you. Oh, dude, this woman. I mean, she's cut down trees. That's how many books she's bought and given away. Like, but yeah, even her favorite author is Stephen King, and she hasn't read the new Stephen King book. She's been listening to it on Audible. So yeah, I am. I'm being. But what about this? Okay, so instead of Audible, how about I do a Patreon page, and then I do it like kind of half reading the book to them, and then half making fun of them for listening to audiobooks because I think that's pussy as reading or listening to audiobooks. No offense, but I like to read books that are made of paper, so I just feel like it's childish. Like read to me. Please read to me.
I hate to say this, but you're very liberal.
Liberal? What do you mean?
I mean, it seems like I understand that you like to do it your way,
right? So,
but people have to
the
like to do.
The customer's not always right,
They
man.
are. They are like people want to read your stuff, and some people want to read it. Some people want to read it.
Liberal, like politically?
I mean,
not
I mean, like you're saying that you have to do it my way. Nobody can do it any other way.
Yes, I want you to listen to a cassette tape. I want you to hold a cassette in your hand. I want you to have to hit pause.
What's a cassette tape?
You know what a cassette?
There's no cassette.
Nobody's making
if I had a cassette
Yes,
tape, I wouldn't know where to go, where to play it. Like I don't know what device I'd have to even.
Then I suppose it's not for you.
Yeah.
It's not for anybody. Nobody's listening to cassette tapes.
That is not true. That is not true. Go to shows, and I'll bet you if you go to the merch table, they will have a cassette.
Okay, well, they're not putting them in cars.
I'm just telling you how I've been thinking up to this point. But like I told you, I needed you to consult with you because then this is a tax write-off. Okay, so I'll give it a shot. Maybe I do need to take the extra step.
You're telling
So you're telling me you don't sell any hard copies of books?
No, I do, of course.
Okay.
I'm saying I sell as many hard copies as I do Audible. Like I make as much on on Audible as I do on hard copies.
I got to do it then. I guess.
See what I'm saying? I mean, look.
Do you have to get an Audible? Do you have to because to get my music on Spotify, I have to pay an aggregator like DistroKid to
you don't pay anything. No,
you
what
just
happens
make an
is
Audible account and put your shit on it.
you make it. Well, obviously, you have to make the Audible book.
Well, I got microphones. I can knock it out.
Right. So you do that, and then you have to redesign this. You have to make it in a square, look like a square.
Okay.
And then you put that up, and you put the audible or the audio up. The file, they listen to it to make sure the quality's good. Your quality's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And then once they do that, they say it's okay. And here's the great thing is that they actually they recommend it to people.
See, they won't do that for me on Amazon because my shit's dirty books. Like they won't. I'm not allowed to have expanded distribution because of the content of my books.
Is it content or is it because of what you're saying on the back cover? Is the back cover saying anything that's
No? I mean, none of them. They almost.
Because I had
none
one
of them really
issue.
even have.
I've had one issue with a book where my subtitle used the word sex offender.
Oh.
And that was an issue.
I mean, this one has like the story, like a poem about smoking crack with a cockroach.
I mean, that may
Maybe
be
that's
an
it.
issue.
Yeah.
But either way, you can do the Audible, and you should be able to take one of your more mundane, ones, and do an Audible, and you put it up, and then
maybe start with like a short story book, and then
and then you'd
slower
be shocked.
content.
You'd be shocked what would happen. People will start.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I need to compromise if I want to make some money because I do.
Yeah, I mean,
that's kind of why that's the point that I was getting to. Is like my real estate thing is kind of leveled off. It's just a well-oiled machine now. I'm a landlord.
Yeah, it's the difference between making $100.
So I'm like, what am I going to do? Just like get a job and fade off? Like, why am I going to keep writing books if only my friends and when I do shows I sell it as merch? So why am I writing books if I don't have an audience? Like, I'd really like to get one from that camera, you know what I mean? From being on the show, that'd be nice to get platformed. But I have to compromise. You're right.
I mean,
I have to compromise.
I have to do anything, but I'm just saying you're leaving money. You're leaving money on the
and I'm
table.
only going to be able to make more money if I do give the people what they want. I get what you're saying, but this has been my logic for not doing it. Like,
I feel like your best your best thinking has gotten you thrown in jail multiple times. It's not exactly.
How are you not putting it together that there's also some bad luck here? Like, open a car door in an accident, get a felony. Steal a soda, get a felony.
It's funny that you put you mean holding onto a car door while
I hate that
skating.
I hate that these ex-con motherfuckers do this. They're the ones that will hold you the most accountable. Listen, dude, you're justified. I heard you talk about RDAP a lot, and all of that rhetoric in there is exactly what the Jamaican therapy cult was like. Like, where you have other people being like, you're justifying.
Yeah, it is.
Be accountable.
It is. It is all that.
I know I am, but whatever.
But, I hear you. And it's like, you sent me to jail for this long. Wait a minute. Didn't you, one, didn't matter, it's 99 cents. Didn't you steal, come back and threaten somebody?
I mean, you just hold my friend hostage, man. Come on, dude.
It's like attacking a cop because he's arrested your friend. You're not saying, hey, he's under arrest. You're saying he's holding him hostage. He's not holding him hostage. Look, man, he was arrested in the back of a police car.
Hold on, let me pose a theory to you here. If you and I are soldiers in a war, okay?
You're not a soldier.
Okay, I'm just one hypothetical here, bro. And hold on, hear me out. If we're soldiers in a war, we're fighting for America, okay? And North Korea comes in here, and they try to take you captive, and I fight them to get it to stop, right? I'm a soldier in the war on drugs. I've been a drug dealer my whole life. Not anymore, I'm clean now. But, Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon declared war on my people, drug users, okay? So if the police want to come and bag and tag my boys, my fellow soldiers, I'm gonna stop them. I'm gonna do whatever I can. I mean, I won't because I'm a pussy, but I think that's logical. I think it's honorable, as a matter of fact. My friend took a 99-cent soda. We already talked about how Pepsi owns the goddamn companies, and it's a little bit of syrup with some water, and they took a year of my life away for that.
This sounds to me this is very reminiscent of the speech that Johnny Depp's character, or the guy's name is, what's his name? George Jung gives to the
Your Honor,
Your Honor. What are we talking about here?
Imaginary line.
Some plants that were grown that I moved across some imaginary line for some law that somebody wrote.
Why are ex-cons like this? Why are you guys like this, where you hold each other accountable?
And then did you ever see that line? And then she turns to him and she's like, well, unfortunately, those plants are illegal, and you move them, and that line is real, and those laws are what govern this country, and you're going to prison.
That 99-cent soda wasn't yours, and we have laws in place. Okay, fine, whatever.
You came back and you threatened someone.
You got to understand, I just have this I have such a disdain for authority that it's like, I look at it as I had my childhood taken away from me by every authority figure that I ran into. So for a long time, I was really willing to live my American dream by any fucking means necessary, dude. And I didn't do it by running drugs or fucking.
You know what they would call that in the concentration camp you were in? You're holding resentment.
I mean, is it resentment? I mean, I'm not doing it in spite of that.
It sounds like you're doing it.
It's not an angry thing.
Described in spite of.
I don't know. It doesn't feel. I mean, there's no anger behind it. It's just like, this is fucked up. I was unjustly a cult, a scam, a fraud took advantage of my mother who needed help for her mentally ill, troubled son.
You just told us you were faking the mental illness.
No, I'm saying. I also said I definitely had some psychosis when it came to how I was being treated by the people in my neighborhood, authority figures. I needed help, dude. I needed help. I really did. And these people took advantage of my mother. How can I not? It's not even. It's just the law now. It's not a resentment. It's not anger behind it. You guys took away from me and my mother, and I'm gonna have the life that I want to have, and I don't give a what the consequences are. I'm sorry. I don't understand why that's a bad thing.
It's you're justifying bad behavior.
Is that really? Yeah, I don't know. Whatever, man. So what? Bad behavior is fun. Hey, what did Mark Twain say? Be good and you will have no fun. I've had a pretty fun life.
Yeah, you sound like you've had a lot of fun.
I have. I haven't been. I caught a charge in February.
My God!
You want to hear?
For what?
Oh, it's great. This was my graduation. This is my 20-year reunion, bro. I love it. I love this story.
What was the charge?
My friend Lexi was supposed to come see me from LA. She died.
No.
Yeah.
So, okay. And you've been talking about Lexi too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And she's one of my oldest friends.
Why did she? How'd she die?
Did some had on it.
Fuck, bro.
Now get a load of this. You want to hear
left and right?
You want to hear how heartbreaking this is? I'm actually getting a little teary thinking about it. I wanted to surprise her. We've kind of been off and on buddies,
Right.
like forever, for a long time. And she was going to come. I was going to meet her in Omaha, and she was going to stay at the Cottonwood Hotel. It's like a really nice hotel there, and so I was going to surprise her, like wait at the hotel bar, and then I get the call. She never got on the plane because she's dead, right? And so I proceed to get fucked up, and I get overserved at the Cottonwood. I don't know if I should say their name, but whatever. Anyway, I get really fucked up. Had a bunch of old fashions or something like that, and I'm so wasted that they're like thinking about comping me a room because I'm like incapacitated. I mean, somebody could have even put something in my drink. That's how fucked up I was.
Right.
It's more than likely that I just got hammered. So instead they call me a cab, and they shove me into a cab. I kind of black out. Don't know what happened, but I get out of the cab, and I'm miles from home, and I go into a store to buy more beer because that's what I need right now. You know, a couple of beers to drink. Remind me to tell you about open carry, and then I'll get the fuck out of here. So, go into the store, put my pin in, put the wrong pin in because I'm so drunk. Walk out of the store with the beer anyway. A beer open, start walking down the street, go sit in front of a fast food restaurant, and wait for an Uber. Like I'm calling an Uber, and then the boys roll up on me, and they're like, "You know, you didn't pay for that, right?" And I'm doing the Bozyak. Yes, sir. No, sir. Hands up.
Right.
Being, cooperative. And they're like, "You put the wrong pin in and you still walked out with the beer." And I was like, "Oh, man. So I got to go to jail?" And they're like, "Well, where do you live?" And I'm like, "Down that way, like a mile, you know?" And they're like, "All right. What do you say? Like, write him a ticket for theft under $500 and then and they gave me a ride home.
Oh, nice.
Like it really does go a long way. You know, in my early 20s, when I wouldn't be doing anything, I'd be getting harassed by the cops. I'd call them fuckers, tell them I'm gonna fuck your wife and all that. It went a long way because they could have taken me to jail, and instead they wrote me a citation and took me home. And when I went to court, I wrote the DA a letter, sent her screenshots, sent a check to the convenience store company. It's a local chain. Wrote the DA a letter, told her exactly what happened, like verbatim.
Right.
You know, and go to court. The judge was so impressed that I flew back from New York to Omaha to go to court that and the DA, I sat there and watched her read my letter. She's like, "Let's put this on the back shelf." I go sit back in the courtroom, and I'm watching her like kind of giggle and wiggle in her chair, and I'm like, "I'm getting out of this shit." Like, and the judge was like, she goes, "Mr. Brooks was intoxicated. He went in the store, put the wrong pin in. The police corroborates that. I think we can drop the charges." And the judge goes, "Then we're going to drop the charges." And he goes, "Mr. Brooks, try not to get too intoxicated. College World Series coming up." And just let me go. And then, so I have like the crinkled up citation on my wall in a frame with the dismissal letter that I got from it's like my diploma from a lifetime, right. The oldest juvenile delinquent known to mankind. There's your title right there, dude.
I was gonna say, and had you handled the 99-cent theft the same way,
they probably would have. I learned my lesson,
right.
Matt. So if you keep telling me I'm justifying and I'm resentful and I learned my lesson, man. I'm rehabilitated. It took 20 years.
I'm sorry to hear about your friend.
Yeah, it's really sad.
That's bullshit.
It's,
like it's
fucked up. You know what's really fucked up, man, is like the people who I've been the closest with. Mm-hmm. Have died in these really tragic ways. Like, I mean, I feel like the people on this planet who have lived a very strange life, and the people who have understood me. You ever watch wrestling, pro wrestling?
I mean, yes, okay. Not recently, but yeah.
There was a guy back in the '90s, Chris Kanyon.
Okay.
He used to do a character called Mortis, and then he just decided to go as Kanyon, right? Well, he was gay. First, he was trying to become the first openly gay pro wrestler, but he was basically ostracized. His story, he was ostracized from the sport.
Okay.
And he went into a horrible depression. I was his roommate at one point, right? I just rented a room in his condo on Clearwater Beach. And we became really, really good friends. And he was suicidal. And so I somehow got his mom's number in Queens and called her. And she's like an old Catholic lady. And he was so mad at me. But I was like, this is, if you don't take that step with people who are talking about killing themselves, they might actually do it.
Yeah.
Like,
and then everybody says, "Why didn't you say something?"
Exactly. And it's not about that. I don't want my friend to die. I don't care what you guys think, you know, like I just don't want my friend to die. And we were very close friends. Like, and then get a load of this, dude. I'm doing an art project when I'm working a yellow cab at night, graveyard shift, and I'm doing these little drawings of famous people who have died. So I'm Googling famous people who have died by certain methods, drinking themselves to death, suicide. That's how I found out Chris died. Mm. I was like famous pill deaths.
Died from pill.
He himself. He was living in his parents' house in Sunnyside, Queens, and he fucking ate a bunch of antidepressants and himself. And then my friend Acacia, also one of my best friends in the whole world, drove off a cliff in Northern California. Curtis got into a fight in Brooklyn, hit his head, died in his sleep because he had a concussion.
Didn't know it.
Lexi, who's like my spirit animal, like that one really hurt. And dude, I want somebody to blame. To be honest, I want to believe it was some jealous boyfriend or something who gave her some dirty drugs or something. But it's just it's the state that we live in. So
Open carry.
Well,
can we talk about some books?
Yeah, I was going to ask this. Can you explain what each of these books are, like in like a sentence or two, or
I'll try and go as fast as I can. Some of these are like kind of joke books, like I'll do those ones first. Like this one's called Theoretical Conspiriato, which is it's like a complete like Mad Magazine signet book of a satire of making fun of conspiracy theorists.
okay.
This one, I noticed how like emotionally inbred Midwest people are once I lived there, and so I started. They're all kind of like lunch table bullies. So I was like, oh, it'd be cool to write like a gang novel, like old school gangs, like the Black Diamond Rangers or some shit like that. You know, those old school Chicago style gangs.
Okay.
So, but I was going to use it as like an allegory for just how lame Midwesterners are. And then I gave up on it. So what I did was,
So halfway through the book, it just stops.
I wrote like,
I can't do this anymore.
I wrote like 12,000 words and I was like, fuck this. This is dumb. Like, I don't care. It's stupid. And so what I did was the charge that I got where I went to the court for the beer and everything.
Right.
I made it sound like I got community service and I go to an old folks home and this is the old guy that I'm sitting playing checkers with is community service. This is the story that he tells me. And the reason it's not done is because he just dies and then I leave.
Okay.
So sorry, spoiler, but that's it. And then this one is a bunch of like short stories that are from poems I wrote. I write a little bit of poetry, but I put the poems into AI and then kind of touched them up a little bit. But mostly this is written by AI, and it's called Interdimensional Indigestion. And then this one I wrote on a artist residency in New York. Stayed at my buddy's loft in Brooklyn. My homie Justin Tessone is a fine artist, a painter. He did that painting, and it's just a couple of short stories. They're funny with more poetry, but it's like cool poetry, it's not like lovesick lover boy bullshit. So first book that I put out was Future Drugs and Other Sciences. I don't know why I named it that. I think it's because it's so weird that I just couldn't come up with an appropriate name.
And
it's
this is a dumpster being thrown into
it's a dumpster fire. The dumpster fire. Yeah. It's my worst moments in life. I think there's some of what I talked about in this podcast on there, but it's like if you took I heard a famous like an influence of mine, a musician named Jay Retard, and he had like a reputation for being a wild guy, right? And he was like, I got this reputation.
James Retard?
Jay Retard, yeah, that was his stage name, yeah.
Okay,
look him up; it's pretty tight. He's dead now too, but he had like a reputation for being a party animal, and he's like, I don't know why, because like I'm pretty good like 29 days of the month, and then I'll just have one night where I body
People
slam someone at the bar.
That.
Yeah. So I was like, what if you took those and made it into a compilation? And I wrote it in kind of this like jailhouse manifesto shorthand. Really, you're going to really hate it. If you're a stickler for grammar and punctuation and stuff like that, you're going to set yourself on fire if you try to read that book. So, and then Energy Vandal is touching on that concept of like, I think you were talking about it, that people meet you and they automatically just don't like you. Some of them. So it's like I vandalized the energy in the room kind of thing. And it's really just an overly written, over academic response to the people who hated on this book.
This looks like the thickest book you have. It's what, 50,000 words?
250, maybe, yeah. I like to keep it short.
Okay.
Because I have a lot of friends that I want to read my books that are semi-literate high school dropouts. And like, he read the first... He read my homie who loved this book read the first page of this one.
Right.
And he was like, dude, f- this book. It's like overly, you want to go ahead and, since you love Audible, why don't you read us that first page?
I'm not gonna read it because you don't want it. I promise. Because I have dyslexia and I read like a fourth grader.
And that's part of the reason why this book is written the way it is. Because I just embraced my dyslexia. I also write with a typewriter and then I scan in the pages and just copy and paste them to Google Docs, and I don't really edit them that much. I think it retains some rawness. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll get out of you guys' hair so you can.
This is. Hold on, what's going on?
What?
Okay. Well, you got some stuff in Spanish. You got.
Yeah, that's the dialogue of the character in there.
Oh, okay.
He's speaking in Spanish. I like that. Cormac McCarthy did that. I'm hugely influenced by Cormac McCarthy. He has large portions of his book where a character speaks Spanish and he doesn't translate. So you just gotta figure out how to translate it or speak Spanish.
Are these selling?
Yeah, to people I know. Yeah, I mean, I do events, and this is like I'll go play music or I'll DJ, or I'll go do a spoken word thing, and then bring copies to sell, and that's basically the only way I'm selling books. But
What about on Amazon?
Yeah,
Okay.
here and there. Yeah, but they won't recommend it to anybody because they're dirty books,
Right.
and that's why I'm here, man.
So
I like your sense of humor, and I think that people who like your sense of humor are gonna like the dark sense of humor in these books. Even though I think you think I'm a retard. I think you think I'm retarded, but I think that I've gotten some laughs out of you.
I feel like I've hidden that. No.
No. What? No.
I've tried to suppress it.
Dude, you have not tried at all. Yeah, I don't know.
You got to think about doing the Audible.
I'm gonna do it.
So where can people find you on the internet? Digitally?
Ellis Jones 456 is my Instagram. That's pretty much it. You can email me ellisjonesrtm@gmail. I'm down. I got a lot of free time right now, so I can show up and do spoken word, DJ, play some music. I'm down to take it on the road. I've just been doing kind of like friend hookup gigs, like
And to buy the books, where do they go?
Amazon.
That's
it,
All right.
exclusively. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming out.
I appreciate you having me.
All right. What are we doing? Oh, are we doing a shake? Okay, let's do a shake. Fuck it.
Is it weird to shake with my left hand?
It is weird to shake with your. Okay. All right. This.
Yep.
All right. Hey, I appreciate you guys watching. Do me a favor. If you like the podcast, please share it. Please subscribe. Please leave a comment. Also, we're going to leave all of Ellis's links in the description box. So take a look. Send him an email,
Instagram,
or go to Amazon, buy a book. I really appreciate you guys watching. Also, please consider joining our Patreon. As you can see, this is a really kind of a dumpster fire podcast, and you can. There's a whole bunch of stories that are gonna end up on
Put it all on Patreon, man. Shit.
There's gonna be some this is.
I want to see it too. I'm not subscribing to watch my own episode, bro.
There's gonna be some stuff on Patreon. It's $10 a month for exclusive Patreon. Please consider joining. I really appreciate it, and it helps Colby and I produce these programs. Thank you very much. See ya.
All right.
Are you still recording?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want me to stop?
Dude, can I do one of those? Like, you know how, sometimes people have a guest from their podcast be like, "You're watching True Crime with Matt Cox," and you could use that as like a promo.
You go ahead.
I'm sure, but when you just lean forward, don't you
then you can't,
you move this. So you can move this wherever you want.
I don't really want to do it, but I just thought it'd be funny.
But you can do it.
No, it's fine.
This will be the end.
No, I'm saying you can do it. Just don't. But make sure you say it in here, because even when you just did it now.
No, I get it.
go.
No, you took the wind out of my sails, man. My feelings are hurt. I feel like you resent me for being so scatterbrained. And don't try to justify it. Don't try.
I'm not justifying it.
I'm just playing.
You really do need to put these things on Audible.
I know, but those are gifts for you. Unless you don't want them, and I'll take
good.
them.
Thank you. I may actually just hire somebody to put them on Amazon and take the money myself. Anyway.
You fucking asshole. Oh, yeah, give it to a fraudster, why don't you? It's like, this guy's easy to rip off. Somebody already stole a book from him.